Sacred Symbols is sponsored by Opera GX, the web browser made specifically for gamers, tech enthusiasts, and those who want lots and lots of options. You can download the app completely for free right this second by heading to operagx.gg/sacred symbols. That's operagx.com/sacredsymbols. Again, for the powerful, free, and extremely useful Opera GX browser brought to you by the old school tech company Opera, head to operagx.gg/sacred symbols. Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support our show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast. This is episode number 353. My name is Colin Moriarty. I'm joined as always by Jesus Christ.
Should we keep going?
Oh, of course not.
Yeah, keep going.
Chris Reagan, how are you today, my friend? Good to see you. The sweatshirt is looking great. We don't sell that one anymore, I don't think.
Yeah, this is vintage.
Yeah.
Now,
vintage Sacred.
You'll be able to find this in 50 years in a Goodwill, assuming we still have Goodwill on Earth.
Right.
But I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing all right. Got up. We're recording a little bit later today.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Which was fine by me. I could wake up a little bit later, but I was like, I have more time than usual. We're gonna go out. I'm gonna get myself. There's a place here called Noah's Bagels, Noah's New York Bagels. That actually did pretty good. They make a pretty good bacon, egg, and cheese. So I was like, I'm gonna walk over there. And I was walking about, and I realized I misjudged the distance. So I was trying to get back just in time, and so I sprinted about halfway. But I made it.
Misjudging.
I made it.
Good. Well, obviously, here you are. Good to see you. Got a little tuft of hair coming out the front. You look very handsome.
Little. Yeah. Appreciate it.
Yeah. No problem at all. It's my pleasure. Yeah. Thank you we're recording an hour later than we usually do because I suspect that this episode won't be very long. I say that and then who knows? But also I've been my sleep schedule is just so fucking crazy right now. I was up until 6 a.m. the other day.
Holy shit.
I just can't sleep. So I'm going to probably get dementia soon and die. But in the meantime, I thought I would try to get, and what I really needed today was an extra hour because, to be fully transparent, as I think we've discussed in the past, the ad market is not great right now for a lot of podcasts. It hasn't been for a while. Ads are softer. And then we randomly got 2 ad reads for this show, which I was like, oh, so I have to write those ads and stuff. So I needed a little bit more time. So I appreciate you guys going a little bit later, but it's good to be here with you. Dustin Berman, executive producer. Good to see you today. How are you?
Good. Yeah. I honestly, when you said yesterday you wanted to record an hour later, I was happy. It's been a busy few days here in the Last Stand network with the Nintendo Switch news. So we've got 2 new episodes out of Punching Up. And the one today was Gene had some hands-on with the Switch 2. So we did a video with him and Brad talking about it, but the embargo was at 9 a.m. And I just don't, when it comes to embargoes, I never trust a scheduler. I'm
definitely.
I'm not going to be the guy that fucks up someone else's embargo. I'm just not going to do it. So while it wasn't super early, I was up a little earlier than normal to make sure that got out on time. So yeah, everybody go check out the Switch 2 coverage because we did quite a lot.
Yeah, I just went to look. It's just a special episode, not even numbered, which is good because that would have really annoyed me.
I was debating about it, and then I thought about the numbering. I didn't even, so technically on Patreon, it's listed in Punching Up as a collection, but it's not tagged as Punching Up because then the tag numbers will be off.
Yeah, that will just drive me insane.
So I was like, you know what? We can go without the tag on this one. So, but yeah, just a special episode for everybody.
Great. Now I got to pay Gene twice.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Sorry.
All right.
Well, no. He wasn't on the first one.
Oh, okay. Well,
you don't pay me shit for the extra Punching Up episodes.
Well,
it's nothing extra for being on the Punching Up.
You get paid pretty well, don't you?
I didn't say that. I just said I don't get paid anything extra to be on Punching Up. So you're neutral.
Yeah, I'm neutral
in
right
what
now.
you're paying people.
That's good. To remind people, my back hurts, so I'm just going to be leaning back a lot, looking like I'm mad. I've been looking at videos and I'm like, my arms are always crossed. And I'm like, yeah, it feels good.
You always, there's always a stern look about you.
Yeah, we get into that, I think, a little later in the show.
Yeah, we will.
And a lot of people, wrote in about Nintendo as well. So a lot of people want to talk about Nintendo. We will talk about that, of course. There's not a huge amount of news otherwise, but that makes perfect sense when you think about it, because obviously everyone is staying out of the way of Nintendo and letting them do their thing. I think that's very wise. So we'll talk about that. But this is a PlayStation podcast. It's Sacred Symbols. Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, in fact, is the name. And you can get it 3 days early and ad-free over on Patreon, patreon.com/laststandmedia. We appreciate you very much. Thank you for your support over there. $5 a month is the sweet spot to get early ad-free access to all the shows in our network, including Sacred Symbols and Sacred Symbols Plus. More on that in a moment. You can get access to Discord. You can write into the show via the news feed, the weekly threads, get RSS functionality, and so on and so forth. There are, of course, $1 and $2 tiers and $10 and $25 tiers, depending on what you want. But go and explore. Explore both the website and yourself at patreon.com/laststandmedia. Explore your bodies.
Just don't explore yourself with the website.
Right. Explore not someone else's body, but explore your own on patreon.com.
Yeah. Put a piece of tape. Put a piece of tape over your webcam whenever you're on Patreon.com, on our Patreon.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
I have a piece of tape over my laptop camera. Yeah.
Oh, really?
I remember us talking about this a long time ago, Chris, but that when I saw an image of Mark Zuckerberg in a meeting at Facebook with a fucking piece of tape over his camera, I'm like, if he's doing it, then obviously something's amiss. And then, of course, the reports came out being like, oh, yeah, people at Amazon listen to you over the fucking Alexa all the time. It's like, oh, good, man. Let's have all these live cameras, live mics. Great.
The PS5 controller literally has...
I want to rip it out. I wish. Remember when it was announced? I'm like, I wonder if we could take it apart and just rip the microphone out of it.
I mean, you could.
Yeah, but I don't... Am I going to do it?
Right, that's fair, yeah.
Right. I always do hit the button, and then who knows if it works or not, but when I turn the controller on, I always hit the button so it turns orange.
Right. Yeah. It bothers me, though, that like whenever... There's something about the orange light on that mute button that really bothers me, because I'm just like, I don't like that a light is on to indicate that something is off. You know what I mean? Like, it's something in my brain that's like, I feel like it should be the opposite in some way.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. Yeah, because it's the IO. It's on. It's funny, man. Like I'm still scarred of the PlayStation Vita version of PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale, because they must have patched this at some point. But if you would go into a match, it was the only Vita game I knew that ever did this, and I played the shit out of Vita, as people know. Your mic would just be live.
Oh yeah,
and like it took me rounds to figure out. I'm like, oh my god, dude! Like, what have we even been saying? You know, because I think like at some point someone's like, "Oh, hey," or whatever. And I'm like, "What?
Yeah,
beating the shit out of someone with fucking Dan Fortescue or whatever the hell I was doing." So I've always been wary. I'm leery of that, of being on a mic, being on a camera. The laundry room's back here. You know, like I'm pointing at, and I always walk in there naked with my laundry, like before I get in the shower to throw it in there. And I'm like, what if the camera was just on? And I'm just like, you just see Colin's fucking plump white body.
Oh, that fat dong.
Fat dick.
Well.
Well, it's good to be here with you guys today. Sacred Symbols Plus, by the way, I mentioned that earlier. That's our supplement on patreon.com/laststandmedia for our big fans, where we get into interviews and deep dives, game discussions, and so on and so forth. Recently put up a split fiction review discussion that Dustin and Hogue participated in. I had Hogue recently on to talk about a bunch of legal matters as well. I just recorded another 2+ hour episode of Moriarty Cross Jaffe. We get into the Nintendo stuff very deeply into that, and a bunch of other things too, including, I have the notes here actually. Yeah, we talk a lot about like Sony's position of kind of putting them, they're the ones that predicated the game of like, we're going to have like an arms race on how games look, and now they're suffering from it. So we talk a lot about that. Talk about Steam on Xbox and the rumors there. And then we talk about Ubisoft, which actually there was an update today with the Ubisoft stuff where I'm pretty sure they got sued by their own shareholders over the deal with Tencent to renegotiate the price, because I think they realize that they're going to be stuck with this increasingly worthless stock that is predicated on like Prince of Persia and Steep or whatever. So they need to get out of that. So I want to talk to Hogue about that. We're not going to talk about that here. I need to read the documentation, but I suspect he'll be on the show again soon to get into all of that. So yeah, we'll look forward to that. Rajib Basu wrote in on Patreon, just like you can, and said, hello, CDC. Would you be willing to have a temporary recurring segment in the coming weeks to talk about The Last of Us Season 2, complete with spoilers? No, I wouldn't. because we're going to be doing an episode of Sacred Symbols Plus for every episode of the show. And that will not be the weekly episode of Sacred Symbols Plus. So these will be additive episodes of Sacred Symbols Plus. I got to figure out who's going to participate. The one thing that I know is that I want it to be the same group for every episode, because what we did the first season and whatever that was, 22, 23. What I recall was that like we would switch people in sometimes and then they have things to say, or like that we've already, in other words, it was like, it wasn't a continuous conversation. We would be going back to a previous episode, we'd be rehashing things. So honestly, Dustin, the group that I'm thinking of is me, you, and Micah. I don't want to put anyone, I mean, anyone can participate, but let's be honest, I don't feel bad about asking you and Micah to do things. So
certainly.
Right. So that's what I'm thinking we're going to do. Yeah.
The thing that we need to figure out, which this is not the place to have this conversation, but let's have it. That show comes out on Sundays.
Right.
So we got to figure out how, if that's the day we want to release those extra episodes.
No, I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about the scheduling.
Oh, okay.
We'll record and publish them on Monday or something. Don't worry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to continue to publish things on Sundays. In fact, we have a few things lined up for Sundays that are going to be very fun, I think, very soon. But yeah, don't worry about that. Don't fear about that. These will just be little supplements, little celebrations.
Yeah.
And Until Dawn, I think, is next Friday, something like that.
Oh, geez.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So maybe what will we do? Yeah, maybe we'll just go see it and record that day or something. I don't know, that night, or maybe that weekend, just get it out of the way. And then that will be a core episode we can sit on that for even a week if we wanted to. We'll figure it out. Merch, laststandmedia.store. Sweatshirts, t-shirts, hats, stickers. Have at it. Keep Micah busy. She's been going to the post office every day with a plethora of packages that you guys have been ordering. So thank you for that. And leave us nice reviews on podcast services. You can leave a comment on the video. You can like us on YouTube. You can find us on all the different social media platforms. Do whatever it is you want to do. Just make sure to be exploring your body while you're doing it. Let's get into some topics of discussion. You didn't like that, Chris?
What?
You didn't like that?
No, I just I feel like I have this like I feel like this is going to be recurring the whole time.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I'm sorry.
Like, oh man.
Well, I do beat a joke into the ground every now and again.
No, I'm no stranger to that.
Yeah, I beat something. There's a few things I beat. All right.
We like to beat things down here.
Oh, we like to beat our meat a little bit more deliberately down here.
A little more finesse.
Yeah. It's all in the wrist, boy.
It's all a little more pizzazz.
LA.
Oh no.
Al Zafino wrote into us on Patreon. Remember, look for the different threads in the news feed on Patreon each week for the different shows. You can submit to them. We pour through them for the various shows and then pull your inquiries out. So many of you wanted to talk about Nintendo. There's only so much to say about Nintendo. So not a lot of inquiries about other things. Like we had like 200 inquiries or something this week, but I would say half of them were about Nintendo. So we'll get there, but not yet. Al wrote in and said, "Hey guys, hope all is well. Last July, Colin was kind enough to read my comment about my wife finishing her chemo treatments. I'm happy to say she recently had her first scan and everything came back clean. Her name is Crystal, by the way. I believe you guys speculated her name was Alberta, which made us laugh." I wish I remember these things. It's because his name is Al.
Oh my
No, her
God.
name is Alberta. I was curious if you guys ever thought about being the voice for the next generation of gamers. As a 33-year-old with a 9-year-old son, I always have LSM podcasts playing while we're in the car, playing games, etc. Last week, you guys made an eye-to-eye comment, and I explained to my son what the brown eye is, so he understood the reference. He thought it was the funniest joke he'd ever heard. You guys are speaking to a lot more adolescents than you realize. Keep being great and stay well.
That's crazy.
Oh, no.
9 years old, the brown eye. I mean, reduce it to its essence. That's not that bad.
No.
Little boys telling fart jokes and poop jokes, and they understand it. So, like,
Right.
it's not, I would have a problem if it was sexualized. But actually, that's totally an agnostic term, in my opinion.
Yeah. So you mean like within the first 5 minutes, if we were talking about Colin's big, fat, plumpy dick, for example,
Him beating it off.
that might be.
Have fun explaining that one, Al.
Yeah. Have fun.
Al and
Al.
Alberta got a lot to explain
Oh,
to little
Jesus
Albert.
Christ.
Little.
It is kind of funny to imagine that we would be like I don't know. When I was a kid, it was like Mark Levin. When you were probably younger, it was like Rush Limbaugh. I love the idea of just like we are that for like just some random kids out there, you know?
Yeah, just trapped.
Yeah,
in a car in the back seat of a fucking Highlander.
Yeah,
with their fucking dad playing this shit with me talking about beating meat in a Southern man voice. It's a very curious situation
I'm sorry, little one. It'll be over soon.
Dustin, did you know what a brown eye was when you were 9 years old?
I don't think so. I was a little probably behind on some lingos, though I have learned some recent lingo. My friend Brandon, I've mentioned many times, he's always keeping me appraised. I learned about the huzz recently, which is just another word for hose.
Oh, okay, cool. I like that. The huzz.
Yeah. So I'm trying to keep up to date.
The sluts.
The whores.
Oh man.
But you're right that explaining the brown eye to your 9-year-old isn't that bad in comparison to all the other shit on this show.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking about a dad explaining that joke, and that's what got me.
Can you I think about this. I obviously don't have children. Maybe I will one day, but it's like, when can you see eye to eye with your child? And I'm not talking eye to brown eye. In other words,
certainly,
I'm gonna sit down with so Al and Alberta sit down with Alberto, right? And he's 9 years old, and they're like, this is what the brown eye is. Now you kind of have to accept that he's not going to tell his friends or say something off kilter in school, right? Because then it makes you look like a bad parent or like you're careless.
Sure.
But when can you be on the level with the child, in other words? Like, I'll give you an example. When I was in middle school, and I've said this before, because I think my parents felt bad for me because they like got divorced and everything was fucked up in my life. They would often like once every few weeks even, but like once a month would just be like, don't go to school on Friday. We're going to go to a movie. And I used to see like all these movies, like the first showing.
Oh, cool.
And I knew better than to say that I was doing that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I wasn't going into Catholic school on the Monday and being like, yeah, my mom and dad brought me to see Deep Impact, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
So I wonder, so the same thing here with Alberto, where I'm like, well, can we trust that he's not going to go to school, talk about his teacher's brown eye or something, and then bring great shame on the Zaffino family? I don't know.
That's the gamble. I would argue like probably like, I don't know, like I feel like a 10 or 11. He's right on that cusp. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think the concept of explaining that to a child is hilarious, especially like unprompted, because like I'm not sure. Like we're assuming that the kid was like, "What's that mean?" But it kind of comes across in the story like there
was a prompt. It was us.
Right.
But we prompted the question.
But the boy didn't prompt.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I wonder if there was even I like the idea of like us saying that and then him just turning with a blank stare, being like, "You want me to explain this, son?" so you don't repeat this. I don't know. It's I mean, kids are saying all sorts of crazy shit anyway, whatever.
I know. I don't even know what they're talking about half the time. Now I realize like the new term people say is crashing out.
I really love that term.
It's funny because it's like, I don't even feel like who, I really love the etymology of these things and how unknowable they were. Like, who started that? Someone started saying that.
Right.
I think about that with so many different things. Of course, the great example is 420. Right. Sure. And how they have tracked down where that came from, and like Santa fucking Cruz or something in the 60s. And they used to meet at 420 after school to smoke. But it's like, how did that just become a thing? Yeah. And then someone innocuously, like one day was like, yeah, I'm off school. I can meet at 420. And then like fucking 70 years later, it's just like part of the vernacular. I find that quite interesting personally.
It's awesome.
But, yeah.
Well, you can even see like now, maybe we discussed this lightly, but when we growing up, even 5 years ago, you said a goon. It's like, oh, it's a henchman.
Right.
But now to goon being a gooner, completely different.
Definitely. Hockey goon is like the name I would think of the most with that. Like that was like a term. It's like, well, that's like a whole different, what are you doing? What do you mean by hockey gooning?
Jesus Christ.
Can't even begin to imagine. You're slapping your nuts around with a hockey stick, perhaps.
Ooh.
It's like the fucking Ice Capades.
Al Zaffino, thank you for writing in. Alberta, be well.
Yeah.
And congrats to his wife, who's cancer-free.
Yeah.
That's why I said Alberta.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah.
Oh, right. I thought that was the kid.
No, Alberto is the kid.
Alberto, yeah, he'll end up in Alcatraz after this.
We're on one today. We got a little.
Yeah.
We got a little bit of a. Got a little bit of a routine going on here.
Yeah.
We're here to what's the thing that you sent us, Colin, where he's like, let us sit down and do improvisational
Is that Liam Neeson?
Yeah, that's
Ted?
Liam Neeson. Yeah, improvisational comedy.
Improvisational comedy.
Oh no, it's not Ted. It's what's that British show? What the hell is it? What is that Ricky Gervais show that was from?
I can't.
Whatever.
I know what you're talking about. It's one of the very short-lived. All the things he does is short-lived. That's British.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know. I wasn't even familiar with it until I saw that clip, and I just thought it was so funny. By the way, you guys didn't respond to the clip that I sent you last week of the guy talking about how he has 4 days in one day. Did you?
What?
You know what? I do remember that now, but it was late at night, and I thought I'll watch it tomorrow, and then I forgot.
Dude, it's so funny because it's a video that's so funny on like 7 different levels that you have to watch it over and over again to get why it's so funny. Like it's funny immediately, but like if you continue to watch it, there's other things that are funny about it. It's a guy basically saying that he lives his life in 6-hour increments.
Oh, I did see this.
I have seen this. I remember when you sent it, I was like, I think I've seen that before.
And what's funny about it, like my favorite part about it is he says something. Well, here, hold on. Let's see if we can. I'll see if I can get it loud enough.
Oh man, people love it when we do this on the Snark Tank when we pull up videos on our phones.
Oh, I don't get. You don't need to watch it. It doesn't matter.
No, yeah, I know.
Here, see if this comes through.
My day is 6 a.m. to noon, and I'm not crazy. You're crazy for thinking it takes 24 hours, just like some dude in a cave did 300 years ago. My second day starts at noon and goes till 6 p.m. That's day 2. And then the next day is 6 p.m. to midnight. What I've done now is I have changed and manipulated time. I now get 21 days a week. Stack that up over a month, I'm going to kick your butt. Stack it up over a year, you're toast. Stack it up over 5 years, my entire life is different than it would have been otherwise.
Love it.
That's so psychotic.
Stack it up over 10 years and you're fucking dead.
But dude, there's the funniest thing is in the beginning. See if you can identify what's funny about this. Because when Mike and I identified that this is what he said, I thought it was the funniest part of the video. Hold on. This is why I wanted to get into it with you guys.
6 a.m. to noon, and I'm not crazy. You're crazy for thinking it takes 24 hours, just like some dude in a cave did 300 years ago. My second.
He said just like a dude in a cave did 300 years ago.
Yeah.
That is, I watched the video 15 times before I even identified that is the funniest part of the video.
It is pretty good.
It's fun, dude.
He thinks caveman times were 300 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I guess it would be if under his understanding of time, it kind of would be, you know? There's a time dilation argument there where like if he thinks there's 21 days in like a day or something, how does that stack up over time? Like, would it be further away or closer? I don't know. But that video is insane. Dude, I sent you a video of of this clip of some guy watching that Kanye interview, and he just and he skips. He's like, I just skipped 10 seconds into this Kanye interview, and it's just like the guy walking into Kanye's house, and you see the phone skip 10 seconds, and he walks out in the black KKK getup.
It's incredible. That was incredible. There are 2 responses to this that I think are funny. One is the guy saying like things are getting crazy because now things are being measured in days per day, which I think is like the funniest thing ever. But the other one, it's like got like tens of thousands of likes. Is because there's a quick shot of the guy interviewing him, and it's just.
Yep, that sounds.
Oh my god, that the cavemen 300 years ago thing, like that is the fucking. I was belly laughing when I heard that. I was like, that is fucking brilliant. Is he being facetious? I don't know. But he's definitely dominating me. I mean, there's like no doubt that a guy like that with that kind of drive, he does more in one of his 6-hour days than I do in probably a week.
Well, yeah, he's psychotic. He's clearly a psychopath. That's insane.
And his family hates him.
Yeah.
Fucking awesome. Oh my God. That's like one of my favorite. That's a fucking banger of a video, in my opinion. Yeah. It sums up the internet bro culture, especially like so well. It's so good. It's so good. That guy's a fucking artist. I don't know if he knows it or not. Sacred Symbols is sponsored by Opera GX, the web browser made specifically for gamers, tech enthusiasts, and those who want lots and lots of options. Learn more for yourself right now at operagx.gg/sacred symbols. For decades now, we've interfaced with the internet via a browser. It's how you've always gone to your favorite websites, for instance. And over all of these years, the major players in the space have changed time and time again, at least for the most part. You don't hear much about Netscape Navigator and MSIE anymore, do you? But actually, one player in the browser wars from the mid-90s is still very much on the scene, Opera. And as they've been quietly churning away behind the scenes for all this time, they stumbled upon a revolutionary idea back in 2019, a deeply specialized browser for those who are, well, a little too online. This idea is Opera GX, a browser that comes packed with tons of tools while limiting its footprint on your computer so that it eats up as few of your precious resources as possible while you're playing, say, a game or streaming your content or just having like 8,000 windows open for totally arbitrary reasons. Opera GX supports a ton of its own mods for sure, many thousands of them, that do everything from customizing fonts to monitoring the brightness of whatever you're looking at. But the most interesting thing from my perspective is the inclusion of some otherwise external options that with Opera GX come built in as a standard. Opera GX is fully integrated with ChatGPT, for instance, while you won't have to download any external ad blockers or VPNs because all of that functionality is built right in. And hey, if you're wary because you've been using something else for a really long time, that totally makes sense. Just know that you can import all of your settings, though, from, say, Chrome, right into Opera GX, like your browser history, bookmarks, and cookies. Oh, and Opera GX is compatible with every extension on Chrome, too. That's kind of crazy. Anyway, if this sounds great to you, and it probably does, why not try Opera GX for yourself today? You can download the app completely for free right this second by heading to operagx.gg/sacred symbols. That's operagx.com/sacred_symbols. Again, for the powerful, free, and extremely useful Opera GX browser brought to you by the old school tech company Opera, head to operagx.gg/sacred symbols. Sacred Symbols is sponsored by NordVPN, a powerful tool for those that want maximal options while online, tools that can protect your data, allow you to spoof your location, and so much more. Learn more for yourself at your convenience by heading to nordvpn.com/sacred. VPNs, or virtual private networks, are so inherently and blatantly useful that even borderline Luddites like yours truly know what the deal is. See, VPNs have a wide range of uses for the whole family, and if you just wrap your mind around their full functionality, well, it's unlikely you'll ever go back. NordVPN wraps all of the perks of deploying a VPN into a single, easy-to-use, easy-to-understand, and affordable package with a litany of obvious uses. I'll give you a personal use case from me, which is sports. With abusive local blackout rules, arbitrary lines drawn between who can and cannot watch an event by country borders, and so on, I've deployed a VPN on more than a few occasions over the years just so I can see what I want to see. And you could do the very same thing with NordVPN, tricking your local network into thinking you're in a different place in the country or world so that you too can enjoy the fruits of, say, an obscure international hockey game. Well, maybe that's just me, but I know a lot of you out there love soccer, for instance, and NordVPN is particularly useful there. But there are a ton of other uses worth noting too. An underappreciated aspect of NordVPN is your ability to spoof your location to get cheaper products, better deals, and so on. Access foreign auctions, price match by region, and whatever else to your heart's content. Kind of cool. But not everything is about trickery. A lot of it is about security too. With NordVPN, your connections will be shielded even from your ISP, nonetheless other prying eyes, all the while making public Wi-Fi way safer to use. And of course, it'll block ads, scan downloads, and warn you about shady links too, no problem. With 7,300 servers and counting in 118 countries around the world, NordVPN runs on just about everything you can imagine, your iOS and Android phones, your Windows, Mac, and Linux computers, and even your gaming hardware. So as you can blatantly see, NordVPN rules, and you should check it out for yourself. To try NordVPN risk-free with a 30-day money-back guarantee, head to nordvpn.com/sacred today. That's nordvpn.com/sacred. Again, for the world's most exceptional and useful virtual private network, head to nordvpn.com/sacred. But there's another piece of art that came out recently, guys. I don't know if you saw. Professor Tony wrote in and said, "Hello, CDC. I was watching the latest from one of my favorite YouTube channels, Idiots in Cars. Highly recommended. I don't know this channel, and I'm very eager to get into it, especially because there are apparently 150 episodes of it at least. When I noticed something peculiar, in Idiots in Cars number 150, at the 342 mark, you can see a Florida man driving in reverse down the left lane of some 4-lane road. The background audio is of our very own Sacred Symbols podcast, playing with Chris Raygun going on about some Final Fantasy nerd shit. The question is, who is this mysterious Sacred Symbols listener capturing the latest escapades of Florida Man? What else have you caught Florida Man doing while listening to Dustin drone on for 15 to 20 minutes about each topic every show? There's a link. So if you guys want to find it, it's Idiots in Cars number 150 from the YouTube channel Idiots in Cars, which is 195,000 subscribers. So you'll be able to find it pretty easily. And the timestamp is 222 seconds. So that would be 342. And Sacred Symbols is clear as day playing in the background.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Chris, what's going on with you? Because this happened to your other show, Snark Tank, as well.
Yeah.
In another online funny video situation. This is this reminds me that yes, the show actually does get listened to by people, and it's not just a fake game that someone's coordinating on me.
Yeah. It's surreal to see this. I love this shit, but like it does kind of put into perspective. It's like, oh yeah, there are a lot of people like genuinely listening. It doesn't feel that way. It feels that way when we do a live show. You know what I mean? Or like when we're in person meeting, but like most of the time, it just kind of feels like numbers on a board. It doesn't really seem like anything.
It's hard to conceptualize what the numbers even mean. You know?
Yeah, you really kind of have to jog your memory. It's almost like acclimating to weather, where it's just like you're kind of like, oh, I understand now that I'm in like a live studio space with like an audience or whatever. But like if you're out of that space, it's very easy to forget. And so seeing shit like this like makes my day, man. I love this. The last one was Star Tank in like the background of some dash cam footage of some other guy getting into a crazy accident, and it's weird. It's cool. I love stuff like this, and it also reminds me that like we're just the mathematics of it for both of my shows. It's just like it's cool to know that both of these things are popular enough to be seen in like the wilderness in this capacity. You know what I mean? Like it's cool because I don't really think about it that way. I think we just meet up here and tell horrible dick jokes.
Yeah,
like
talk about
for a
cranking
long period of
hogs.
time. Cranking hogs on the new season of Cranking Hogs.
Oof, Dustin. Any thoughts on being? Well, you weren't in it, I guess, but we're there nonetheless.
Sure,
in spirit. That was a pretty funny clip too.
Yeah. Well, we hear stories of things that happen to people all the time while they're listening to the show, but it's a rare moment where one of these is captured on video. And so I absolutely love seeing this. So, and it's just, I love that someone just found it out in the wild too. These types of things happen every once in a while where someone sent me an Instagram video from, I don't know if it was some like fitness Instagram TikTok guy. And at one point in the video, there's a guy that's like in the background wearing a Sacred Symbol shirt, just like mysterious. You know, there he is, just for a second.
It's like George Lucas going into the office building.
Yeah,
in the documentary.
So it's nice, it's fun. So please, if you are listening to Sacred and you got a dash cam, if you wreck your car, send it in, or have a loved one send it in if you're dead.
Yeah.
Can I know we talk about George Lucas way too much for a PlayStation podcast, but I still don't understand what he's doing in some of these shots that he's in. Like, where are you going? You're George Lucas. Like, what are you even doing? You're eating a Panda Express?
Yeah, I'm just vibing out.
Dude, Panda Express is good. I like it.
Vibing out with the Red Menace.
But no, Panda Express is fine. It's just, if I were George Lucas, I would hire someone to make me an exact replica of whatever it is I wanted in my house.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I'm just like, go. You don't need to be at the fucking mall, George. Go back to Skywalker Ranch.
Yeah, like he really can just do it. Like, there are people who are infinitely less famous than him, or infinitely less influential than him, I should say, who also can do whatever they want. You know what I mean? Like, John Waters has like an electric chair in his foyer. You know what I mean? That's like, you're just like, what the fuck? And then meanwhile, yeah, George Lucas is just in a food, not even in a Panda Express, in like a mall food court.
Right.
Yeah.
With like a Panda Express.
Right.
Like that's even, I don't know if that's crazier or less crazy. You know what I mean? Like, is it crazier for him to be in a mall in the first place?
Right.
Than a Panda Express. Like, I kind of feel that way.
Yeah,
honestly.
No, you're right. I think you're right. And I feel like there's a gambit in his mind where it's like, everyone knows what I look like. Everyone knows who I am. Even people that are not really very connected to Star Wars or India or anything like that know who George Lucas is. I mean, but it can't be me, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like it can't be me.
It couldn't be him.
Yeah. And I wonder if that's because dead up, if I saw George Lucas in a fucking food court, I would 100% know it was him. And I'd be like, I'm going to talk to George Lucas, see what happens. So
I think there's too much doubt in people. I think everybody's like, yeah, that can't be him. And he's probably sitting there being like, I'm hidden in plain sight.
Like a Jedi.
Like a Jedi assassin. They'll never find me. I'm gonna eat my Chinese chalupa or whatever the fuck they make it. Panda Express. I've never had Panda Express in my life, actually.
I've had it last time in high school.
Oh,
so
damn,
it's been 25 years probably since I've had it.
That's a hot minute.
Yeah. And there was something, when you're a kid and you just don't understand anything. So there's like something almost like romanticized about it. It's like, oh, it's mall food court, Chinese food. That's awesome. And then like years later, you're like, dude, you like were surrounded by amazing Szechuan Chinese food. Like you could trip over it.
I know.
And you're eating at fucking China Express or like whatever, Panda Express. It's like, come on, man.
That's how I felt when I was like 10 years old. And my parents would order like Domino's. I was like, what are we doing?
Yeah, that's like crazy. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, like that. To be fair, like I don't know, 1999 thin crust Domino's kind of slapped in a way that like different pizzas didn't. But like, it's still crazy to me that like we had great pizza places like literally closer that we could walk to.
Right.
And we ordered delivery Domino's. Like,
it's important in the history of Domino's that we remember that Domino's was actually good once, and then it got bad, and that was the whole ad campaign about it.
And then
it got better again. And we talked about this way too much for a PlayStation podcast, but it's like sometimes I'm in the mood for bad pizza.
Yeah,
like sometimes I want bad pizza. Like I'm like, yeah, Papa John's sounds like it's really good right now.
I'm getting a hankering for that thin crust Domino's right now.
Yeah, God bless. And God
I had Domino's a few weeks ago, and it was delish.
What'd you get on it?
Just pepperoni. Basic.
It's a little boring.
This is George Lucas sitting in a Domino's, like, I want everything on one pie. I want it all
hot and ready.
The pepperoni is the key to all of this.
It rhymes.
I want the pepperonis to emanate from the center.
It's like a Fibonacci spiral. It twirls. I don't know what the fuck we're talking about.
I know, it's like not even.
That makes no sense.
All right. Andreas Lennartson wrote in and said, hi, during your plastic straw discussion last week, I couldn't stop thinking about the Swedish word for it. The word is sugrör, which translates to sucking pipe. Oh. Just thought I should share. All the best from Sweden. I don't understand what's going on with foreign languages of any kind.
Right.
I don't know why some of them are so comical. Everyone always makes fun of Dutch, but I feel like there's like some other really strong competitors in the world. The Scandinavian languages are probably in that conversation, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Speaking of sucking pipe. You're like, all right, so it's sugrör with a little line over the O.
I don't even know what
is
that
it a
means.
Line or is that an umlaut? What is that?
No, it's
two dots.
Oh, it's two dots. It is two dots. So it looks like a line from here.
Yeah.
Probably because I'm blind, I guess.
So that's ooh, right? I think that's ooh.
Sugrör. Ooh, yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to.
Sugrör. I don't know. I have no idea. I can't speak
Russian
Swedish.
stank on it.
That's the only way that I could even get close to that right. Area of the world.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like everybody's Russian over there to me.
But sucking pipe is the word for straw, but is there also a Swedish euphemism for that because it's so sexual?
Right.
I don't know.
Probably Hergen-Durgen or some shit.
Hergen-Durgen. Oh my goodness. Hope all is well in Sweden. Andreas, thank you for writing in. Serge wrote in and said, hey, Colin, do you have any new gardening or lawn care plans this year? How are the perennials coming in? I just thought I'd get a quick gut check on the best house in the neighborhood. Thanks for all the entertainment. I'll hang up and listen now. Let me tell you something. So glad you asked. Few things going on in the world of Colin's yard. Number one, I got 2 mows in before anyone got 1 in this year. Okay? Because the grass is fucking roaring back. Back. We've aerated, we've overseeded, we've put the nitrates on it, we've done all sorts of things to it. And by we, mean the person I pay to do that. And now, and then it starts to turn, and then it's spring. There's just a little hint, little whisper of heat and sun. And these things are fucking roaring back. And I got to mow the lawn. So I've already done it twice. It's been a lot of fun out there. The sprinklers are back on. I'm dicking around. I'm poking around. I was weeding. I was pruning. Everything seems to be coming back nicely. The ginkgo tree is budding very nicely. The crepe myrtle out front looking good. It's very boring, isn't it? I'm sorry. I realized as I got older, these are one of the few joys I have in my life is the yard. Kind of just poking around out there, keeping it nice. The perennials are looking good. Thank you. We're going to get annuals soon. Get going with those as well. Shout out to all the fellow yard enthusiasts. I know you're out there. I hear from you every now and again. Enjoy your mow as well. Colin using a cat as a living fleshlight wrote in.
Oh my God.
So it said, hello, sacred crew. Yeah, that was a little disturbing, isn't it? Yeah. Benjamin Franklin once.
Wait, hold on a second.
Yeah,
I feel like this is a little unfair.
Yeah.
Because like they're paying for me to say that on the show, but now they're kind of getting twice as much value by like. I feel like the second you see a name like this, you shouldn't read it.
On the,
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because they're double dipping in some sense.
That's interesting. Okay.
I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know. I don't like it.
Let's ponder it.
Let's ponder it.
So it's a low sacred crew. Benjamin Franklin once said he'd give up excessive eating, drinking, and even chess in favor of exercise so he can get rid of his crippling gout, but he never did. With that in mind, what things do you indulge in that are clearly bad for you, but that you'll never give up, Dustin?
I mean, it's mostly food stuff, but it's not true because I have given that up before when I was losing weight about a little over a year ago now. There's nothing that I indulge in that's like really that bad that I could think of. I mean, I'll never give up coffee ever.
Yeah, but is it coffee even bad for you?
No. I mean, it can be. I've drank enough coffee to make it bad for me. You know, you're riding a razor's edge of total meltdown sometimes.
Is it zero? It's 0 calories, right?
If you drink it black.
Yeah. I've always confused by that. Like, how can that be possible?
It surely is like
how can it exist as something, you know, but also be 0 calories? Like water, I get. This is very mysterious.
Well, why does water make sense and the other thing doesn't? You know what I mean?
It's not a nutrient. It's like I don't know my chemistry well enough anymore, but it's like the agent or something or whatever it is. It's like the conduit by which everything works. Like everything has water in it.
Sure.
So it would make sense that but I guess you're right. Like I don't really understand how that works, but I believe it.
I'm going to be honest with you. I really still to this day don't even fully understand what a calorie is. People talk about like, I'm burning calories and it's like, and I've heard the explanation a million times, but to me, like when I hear it, I'm like, what does that matter to me? Like, I fail to connect it to anything of meaning.
A unit of energy equivalent to the heat energy needed to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius.
The fuck does that mean to me? You know what I mean? Like when you hear that, you're like, oh, I guess a lot of these are bad. Like, I don't know. I have no idea what the fuck this means.
Yeah.
Food is the thing though for me, I think, where I'm just like, I don't care. I don't know. Pizza's not good for me, but whatever.
Right.
Like there's so little in this life that gives me as much joy as a good slice or like a good meal or like a good drink. Like, whatever.
Eating is definitely for me too. The weed's probably bad too. Although, did we talk about this? Maybe this is one of the reasons why I shouldn't stop smoking. I don't remember if we talked about this on this show or another show, but it came up recently that I was like, maybe it was on Constellation, that doctors just don't seem to give a fuck. Because, you know, I always comment, you know, they ask you, do you drink? Do you smoke? Do you work out? And so I'm like, do you drink? Yeah, occasionally. Like,
sure. Yeah.
Do you smoke? And then I'll always say, like, I don't smoke cigarettes or tobacco. I smoke weed. And they're like, yeah, we mean tobacco. And then they move on to the next question. Like, it didn't matter. It happens every time with like a dozen doctors in my life. And I'm like, what? So no one seems to give a shit. Like, no one has ever in a doctor's appointment ever been like, you should stop smoking marijuana.
No.
Never happened. Yeah. Never happened to me. I've been told to drink less. I've been told to eat less. I've been told to eat better and all of the rest. But never that. Never like, yeah, you should. So I don't worry so much about that. I worry more about the food. Yeah. And it's the same thing where like I have great blood pressure. I'm not diabetic or anything. I'm of a reasonably healthy weight, but and I work out every day. I do a ton of cardio, but my cholesterol is like really high. And
right.
Where they tried to put me on a statin last year and I just didn't do it. Mostly because I was going to do it. And then every fucking person I talked to was like, oh, you shouldn't do that. Like, I was like, why? Okay. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm just not going to do it. And I just ignored it. And I actually have a checkup, like the 1 year checkup with this person. Oh. In May, maybe. So we'll see but I've tried to just check the cholesterol by eating less mayonnaise, less cheese, and fewer eggs. And hoping that kind of does the trick. But I think, I mean, I could eat way better than I do. And again, I only do OMAD because it's the only way to stop myself from eating like a glutton. So that it's been so many years now that I'm like, it's not even a problem or even something I think about.
Yeah. I think the way that I think about it is like, the way I think, you know, like if you have, I'll put it this way, if you have $5,000 and 100 years left to live, you're not particularly rich, right? Like that's like a paltry sum of money in comparison. But if you got $5,000 and you've got a week left, you're going to have a pretty good week, I think.
Yeah, sure.
And so for me, I'm thinking like, if I eat this burger and it shaves off a little bit of time, it actually increases the value of the money that I have ever so slightly.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's my way of diluting myself into killing myself slowly.
Well, I mean,
Sure.
it is dark to say, but I generally agree with you where I'm like, I would rather just die sooner and eat what I want. Like, I'm definitely going to watch. To me, and you can clog your arteries and have a heart attack and have a stroke. And there's all sorts of ways you can die. But the one major thing is like watching one's weight, I think, and just like, I won't let myself and haven't let myself get very heavy at all, because that I know is a precursor to a bunch of problems for you. So as long as I like keep that in check and work out, I realized in doing all the walking that I've been doing, I'm walking a 10K every day.
Good.
It's like, it feels good. And it's like, but it's like, that's got to mean something, counteracting in my body somewhere, like the cheese or something,
Right. Exactly.
I'm trying. And by the way, I just raw dog those walks. I don't even listen to anything. I'm literally just stoically thinking about my life. Not on the phone, nothing like that.
Yeah.
Nice. It's nice to be out there.
Be sometimes at my old job where it's like you had like a stressful day or something. You just got to drive home with no music, nothing.
Right.
You just gotta be,
Well, totally. Absolutely. 100%. I look forward to it, actually. All right, let's get into this thing that we were going to talk about earlier. Gavin wrote in and said, "Hey, CDC, Colin, why do you look pissed off on camera? Seriously, I listen to your podcast in video form, and oftentimes when Chris or Dustin are venting away on a topic, my eyes are sometimes drawn towards Colin's screen, and he often just looks incensed. I feel frightened every time and almost guilty for looking at Colin when watching the show. Anyway, keep up the great content." I don't know if I have resting bitch face. I guess I kind of do, but I don't mean to. I get into a zone where I'm a listening face, where I can feel it in my own head. Actually, like my eyes sharpen a little bit, and I'm listening. That's like my listening mode. And there's like a pressure on my eyes. Like, I don't know if people can understand what I'm saying, where I'm like almost looking in a direction and taking in the words. The crossed arm thing that I realized I've been doing recently, though, has been mostly for my back. It feels good to do this.
Yeah.
So that's why I've been doing it. But yeah, those two things taken in concert with each other, I think can lead to an intimidating image. Not intimidating. Who's intimidated by me? But an image of anger and resentment. And I assure you, I don't feel that way. I'm just this is my body. This is who I am.
Yeah.
Can't do anything about it.
I'm very cognizant of that, because I've been told for a long time that like my resting face is deeply, like, I think an uncle told me like when I was like 7 or something, he's like, "You look like you're about to fire me just before Christmas." And I was like, "Oh, I should do something about that." So I've thought like I kind of just like, I pay attention to that, except for when I'm walking down the street and I just kind of don't want to be approached. Then I'll relax, because then it helps me. It benefits me to look that way. But yeah, some people have serious faces. Just as what it is.
That happened to me a lot when I first started on this show, is that people were saying I looked angry. I've kind of, like Chris, adapted in some ways where if I feel like I'm smiling a little bit, it's actually a neutral face. So I've learned to just kind of do that a little bit most of the time.
Maybe I should be like,
"Wow."
How about that? Is that a good face?
Dude, is that Chris's resting face? I don't know if I've ever seen this face from Chris.
Yeah. This is me just like sitting there, and that's what I look like when I'm in front of the computer. Just completely like.
I'm not on this video. I'm probably like slack jawed and half asleep when I'm in front of the computer. So I'm sorry. I didn't mean to come off that way, Gavin. Thank you for writing in. Jeff wrote in and said, "Hey guys, I hope the listeners can learn something from my recent experience. Years ago, you read my submission about how my wife eats all of her food layer by layer. For example, she eats a sandwich by eating the slice of bread, then each individual cold cut, and then finally the last piece of bread. She does this with burgers, desserts, anything you can imagine that is presented in stacked form. I thought it would be fun to share this quirk with all of you. We met one of our new friends from work, one of her new friends from work, for burgers over the weekend. Her friend immediately made a comment about the strange way that my wife eats. She said that her husband listened to a video game podcast and remembered overhearing them talking about this exact situation. I was hoping my wife wouldn't equate it to me as the write-in years ago. She also doesn't listen to the show, but knows that I do. She questioned me, and I was honest with her. I also mentioned that I didn't think it would be that big of a deal to anonymously bring it up as a post on a niche podcast. Ultimately, she's pretty fucking pissed off now. PSA to the sacred soldiers, don't shit where you eat. I'm trying to avoid being the next sacred divorce story. Also, a husband of the new friend, please stand down and don't mention this post to your wife, for God's sake. Uh-oh, we got another one on the clock.
Oh, Jesus
I'm
Christ.
sticking.
Very exciting. Listen, Jeff, I'm gonna level with you. Your wife is an eldritch creature that is eating her food wrong, and you're not in the wrong for noticing it. No one else is in the wrong for noticing it. If you eat a burger like that in front of me, if I present you a burger, bun, toppings, all the rest, and you take off the top bun and start eating it, and you eat the entire thing without touching any other part of the burger, I'm the problem for noticing that? I don't think so. Sorry about that.
I'm wondering about the mechanics of other food. Does she, like for a taco, does she dump out the meat? And then eat the shell?
I would think what she does is she opens the taco, eats the meat out, and then eats the taco, the tortilla.
Yeah. Right.
That's weird. I'm sorry. That's weird. I'm sorry.
Weird,
I know some good lawyers if you need one. So let me know.
Jesus Christ, man.
It's funny though, because he's literally doing the exact thing that got him in trouble in the first place while telling people to not shit where they eat.
Right.
It's like, hey, don't write in with the quirks about your wife to this show.
He wants out.
After he literally just said that she's pissed at him. So now this could reach it. Who knows? Could it be the same person?
This is a death wish.
This is self-sabotage.
Yeah.
For sure, which I'm familiar with. But like, this is dude.
He wants the divorce. He's like,
yeah, here's something that could have fixed all this. Was that you? No. It's not like you're lying about like some crazy, like it's a white lie. It's not crazy, although if you're scared enough to do that, I guess.
Yeah.
But you clearly want to be out of here. So Godspeed, Jeff, spelled wrong.
Yeah. Geoff.
Geoff. Survive. That's I always think about Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder, where he's like begging Ben Stiller to like survive all those bullet wounds. He's like, survive.
I love that movie. That movie rules. Jeff, good luck to you. And be well.
Yeah, be well.
All right, let's get into some game conversations here. It's time.
Yeah.
We wasted enough time.
Oh, can I bring one thing up? Because I saw this just before the show. It doesn't really mean anything because we don't really know. I mean, it's very much a kind of a nothing thing. But like the Marathon Twitter account just became active again after like a year or some, or like after like many months. They just tweeted like some like kind of like glyphy kind of thing. Like it seems like it's an ARG almost, or at least based on my history with Bungie, it seems like that's what it's going to be. It could just be nothing, but it seems like they're active again. Indicates that we might be seeing something about Marathon pretty soon. That was literally just before we sat down to record this. So
yeah, I'm looking at it now. Yeah, at Marathon in the Game, their Twitter account.
And there's not much to talk about really with it, but it's worth mentioning.
I wonder what's in it. I wonder what this is.
Yeah, there'll be some sleuths out there figuring it out. No doubt.
People are asking Grok to figure it out. It's not a bad idea.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, someone's gonna break this thing open. This is pretty cool. Okay, cool. Good eye.
Yeah.
Other things that I wanted to bring up here, just a quick shout out. Devin McCarthy wrote in, said, Sacred Gents, quick shout out to the great work Barry's doing over at Lilymo. Picked up Super Perils of Baking to try something new with my son Parker, and we've been really digging it. Quick install, tight controls, and that sweet retro vibe scratched my little Nemo Mega Man itch from back when I was a latchkey kid living off of pizza bagel bites and Yoo-hoo. Every time I slip up and see flawless run split across my screen, I die a little inside. But those rail yard cart levels are dialed in just right and keep me from coming back for more. This whole game is a reminder that not everything needs to be a 100-hour, $80 epic. Sometimes you just want something fun, sharp, and satisfying that takes you back a bit. Massive props, Barry. Thank you, and fuck me, of course. But props to Barry, and he did a great job with Super Perils of Baking. Thank you so much for supporting our games. We really appreciate it. We got some new stuff in the can, and we're not in the can, but it's going in the can soon.
Thank you, and fuck me is awesome.
Thank you, fuck me.
Saying fuck me is so funny, I think.
It is good.
Scrupulous Freddy wrote in and said, "Hey, Fats, this one's for Colin. Is it just me, or did you exhibit a complete 180 on your opinion regarding smaller interstitial games last week? I distinctly remember that you agreed with Sean Layden in the past about a greater push for games like Miles Morales and Lost Legacy. Why then would a 12 or 15-hour God of War side game be a wasteful endeavor? Curious to learn your thoughts." First of all, and I'm not going to say very much about this, is that like I have one source that if he like told me what the game is basically, and I just haven't been able to verify it yet. I don't know if you saw it, Dustin.
I saw that come through. Very interesting.
Yeah. I haven't verified that. I haven't even worked to verify that information yet. But maybe I will. And if it comes out before we are able to, if the news is comes out or leaks before that, we'll let you know what it is at that time. But yeah. So the thing with this is an interesting write-in, because I saw a few people have written in about this. Is no, I don't feel like I have, because it's about the people that are doing those games. I believe that Sony should explore smaller games, interstitial games, even in big series, if that's what you want to do. But I don't think that that's a good use of time for major studios. No. So I think the major studios have so much riding on their product, they need to work on the big products. And then there should be an association of smaller studios that are able to work on some of these games. I think some of these studios are just a little too precious with their IP, which I appreciate and respect. But at some point, if you want to do these interstitial games, it's like, yeah, let someone else do that while you're working on the big thing. And then you have a better cadence if that's what's important to you. So I don't really see the contradiction personally, but I do appreciate you writing about this. Now, let's talk about Nintendo. It's all any of you wrote in about. I respect that. This is a PlayStation podcast, but Nintendo is a relevant mover and shaker in our industry. PlayStation games are now on Switch, whether it's MLB The Show, whether it's Lego Horizon Adventures, whether it's Patapon 1 and 2, and so on and so forth. Freedom Wars. It's not incredibly uncommon now, and I think it's going to happen more and more, particularly from the second party and external stuff. But the big news here is the announcement of Switch 2, the proper announcement of it, including what it's going to be and all the rest. And so I want to just say this up top. Like, a lot of you wrote in about just the same stuff, like the price, the cartridges, the games. I see you. I can only use a few of these questions, though, so I'm sorry that so many of you wrote in about that. I saw your write-ins. I just can't use your stuff. Ben wrote in and said, "Hey, CDC, what are your thoughts on the Switch 2 pricing? At $449.99, it is the same price as a base PS5." And he calls it the base PS5, like a base, that you would play, which kind of sounds cool. And the games still will seemingly cost $80 digital and $90 physical. I don't think that $90 physical thing personally is true, but we'll get into that. Nope. Is this a sign of the times? Will PlayStation soon follow suit and raise their game prices? So it's an interesting way to look at it. Before we get into those questions about how it affects others, I assume we should get everything on the record. Dustin, you were in the Punching Up episode that went over this, taking Gene's place there because he was at the event. And so I don't want you to feel like you need to be too redundant, but we should get some of this stuff out there. And I have questions too, because I'm not really fully aware of what's going on either. I mean, I've read everything, but I didn't watch the presentation. So Switch 2 is announced, $450, $80 games, at least some of them, but that's their top line. And what are our thoughts here? How do you feel about what was shown? And are you excited? June, what is it? June 6th or something like that?
4th, 5th?
Yeah.
Early June.
Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I'm very excited. I think the hardware is actually a lot more impressive than I thought it would be. It's got a 1080p screen, which we knew, but the part that this was rumored a few weeks ago, I wasn't sure what to think about it, but now it's true. It's a 120 hertz screen and HDR. So pretty impressive. Unexpected for that. So the hardware, I think, looks great. And it was just confirmed today that it is using DLSS upscaling and has ray tracing in it. And some of the examples of different things we've seen on it look really good. It's running. I just saw it today. I'm a little curious about the technical aspects, but I saw that Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are running at 4K 60 on it, which there's been rumors about a 60 FPS version of Breath of the Wild for a while, but 4K 60 on this handheld is pretty awesome. Pretty cool. The new games, of course, I thought look really fun. Both of them really interesting to me as far as Mario Kart World and the Donkey Kong game. And you touched on this, Colin, but Ben says here about the $80 digital, $90 physical. This is something we talked about on Punching Up because that was the reporting we saw from Insider Gaming because they had seen some kind of leak of or something posted about in some non-US territory, or non-US country about that being the pricing. Since then, both Best Buy, Target, Walmart have listed their pre-orders, and that's not the case. So Mario Kart World is $80 physical or digital. There's no difference in price. I ranted pretty hard about that on the episode, but we're working off the information that we had.
Yeah,
at the
that's
time.
the danger of doing that. That's why I'm not crazy about even doing live stream stuff, because it's just like,
right.
we don't really know. You know, I have to read the press releases and study.
Yeah. So that's not the case. But yeah, I mean, a huge part of the conversation, as Ben brings up here, is the $449 price point and the games. I think the hardware, I kind of expected it to be $500 just because of how the market is looking at the price of newer devices like PS5 Pro and Steam Deck and things like that, and Nintendo being Nintendo. I expected to be $500. A lot of people expected $400. So I think $449 for what you're getting, seemingly with the better specs than I expected. I think that's totally reasonable. But yeah, the big thing is about the price of the games, and Nintendo is really kind of exploring different price points for a lot of games. We haven't seen people really, I mean, we've seen PlayStation do this a little bit with smaller games being a little cheaper, but the Donkey Kong game is $70 and Mario Kart World will be $80. So it's not even a flat $80 across the board. There is some shenanigans with their upgrade pricing. Like if you buy a Switch 2 edition of Breath of the Wild, I believe that it is $80. So, no, it's Tears of the Kingdom is $80 because the regular, the pricing's all over the place. I can't even remember now.
It's a Nintendo. It's okay. No big
So,
deal.
do we want to get into the price stuff now? Like,
well,
I'm looking ahead here.
Let me see.
Talk about bundles. Well, let's get everyone's thoughts, I guess, before I.
Okay, yeah. Well, let's get Chris on the record and see what he thinks, because I have no idea what Chris thinks. Chris, where are you on the Switch 2?
Yeah, I mean, I was not the mark for this thing anyway. To be fair, like I was only curious to see what would be there from like from a cross sectionality aspect. Like I wonder if there's going to be any PlayStation stuff there. I wonder if there's going to be any Xbox stuff there. Spoilers, not really, not at all. So that kind of was just the only thing that I was really curious about. I was really never going to get this hardware, or at least at the very least, I wasn't going to get it on like, I wasn't a mark for a day one purchase, maybe like later down the line. But I don't know. I think $449 is like a reasonable kind of price. I just think $80 is kind of, I don't know. But it is going to be, this is the nature of economics and inflation and all that stuff. Like I get it. I get the sticker shock of it, where like I too would be like, I don't know if I'm going to pay $80 for a video game generally. But that, you know, things are expensive now. And things are going to get way crazier if the news is any indication. So like, enjoy it while it's this low.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. If it's not even the Chinese tariffs are significant, but there's actually tariffs against like Vietnam and others where things have kind of
Taiwan.
been Taiwan, right? But my suspicion is that like perhaps these are negotiating tactics to just get everyone to drop back to 0% tariffs for everyone, but I just don't know. The only thing I get afraid of is like what is the tolerance of the video game companies to withstand these costs? And the answer is there isn't probably much of a tolerance, but none of them will be dealing with it really, except for the hardware manufacturers, because I think that all people are going to do is not buy physical games unless you're like a real physical game enthusiast. Like the easy way to the games are not really going to be that affected by it, because it's like the easy way to circumvent that is because they're digital packages and they're not going to be tariffed. Doesn't matter where they come from. But the hardware is going to be a problem, and that's why we know Sony has onshored like apparently hundreds of thousands of PS5s at least, in preparation for like above and beyond what their normal cycle of consoles coming in, just to get ahead of them and because now the tariffs are up. So as of the day we're recording, actually they begin. So anything that's coming now is going to be tariffed. So I do believe that we will see console hardware go up in price. It has to, actually. Like there's just no way that these companies are going to eat that, I don't think. You know, It's just too much money. It's not going to be Brazilian style, like $2,000 for a console, but it's going to be, if the tariffs are 25%, that would be what, 150, something like that, $125 tax on it. So this is kind of the disappointing thing to me about the tariff policy, about the way it's being deployed, is like, even as a protectionist, I don't think there just needs to be a bunch of carve outs. And I'm not saying that because we care about video games. Rather, it's like, there are just a bunch of things we're not going to do. And so like charging more for those things doesn't really make any sense. It's like, go after cars and TVs and fucking phones. I don't care. Well, like, but gaming consoles aren't going to be made in the United States or in Western Europe. Like there's not. So it's weird to not go after them, but to just have this all-inclusive policy, I think, as opposed to being like very surgical, but widespread if that's what you want to be. So that's the thing that, like, to me, I feel like could affect our space in terms of the cost, and that in some sense, the $449 pricing seems like it's baking in a $50 price increase or something that would be
right. Yeah.
Because they must have, Mike and I were talking about this on our walk yesterday, is like, they must have a lot of hardware here already. You would assume. Yeah. So, and these companies are not stupid. If anything, they knew that, the administration was fairly transparent about the day this was going to happen, which was the 2nd going into effect the 3rd. And so hopefully these guys are able to move, but I don't know how fast you can move. I don't pretend to understand the logistics of these sorts of situations. But what else? So there's that big component of it. And I think that's really important. And I don't want to ignore that. But as far as the hardware itself, it's like, I think the price is just too high. I was surprised that even at $449, I think that's too expensive. But that's a relative term because it doesn't matter. It's like what people will tolerate. And I think that I'm all over the map here. Let me reduce it to this. It doesn't really matter what happens with the Switch 2 as far as pricing or availability is concerned, because there's a group of people that are just going to buy it, support it, and get it out there. And that group of people is bigger in Nintendo's history than it's ever been. If you look at the NES to the SNES, which is the only generations in Nintendo's history where they had a successful second launch, right? So like a console came out, and then its subsequent console came out and was actually really successful. But even then, it went from 62 million to 50 million, and which is crazy. The Super Nintendo is so good. And then it went from, at the end, 64, 32 million, GameCube 22 million, and it was not good until the Wii. But you're thinking about a Switch that has sold 150 million and counting. Now, even if a lot of people have multiple Switches, I mean, that's still 120 million people or something. Who knows? Like, whatever it is. That's a huge group of latent Switch fans. And unlike the Wii era, which was the only other Nintendo era where they had an enormous amount of console players like that, the Wii era died like halfway through and just kind of went away. Even though it was still there, it didn't really care. No one really cared. That's why I was so surprised. Skyward Sword selling 3 million copies or something at the time. I was like, that was so bad. Because they had 80 million Wiis or something in the wild. It's different now. So even if the baselines remain kind of similar and the same, even if you had a drop off that was like the Wii U, you would still be looking at 30 or 40 million, Switches to people in the first few years that are really interested in one. What happens beyond that, I don't know. I think it's unreasonable to expect that they'll make another unit that will sell 150 million units.
Yeah.
That's really tough. It's crazy that they did that. I think a lot of it was ingenious, what they've done with it. They revived and made a whole new hybrid vertical that has given everyone permission to pursue this tech. They've kept things cheap. They're heavily reliant on their own games. This seems to be something they're trying to do less now. A lot of third-party stuff. So I feel like they're in a good position, and it's not a matter of if it's interesting to me or not, because it's not interesting to me at all. Like I don't think it's an especially intriguing machine. I'm not the target audience.
Right.
And while I was really surprised by how fickle the Nintendo audience was with the Wii U, I just don't think that that's going to happen again, because the Switch has remained relevant and is bigger than the Wii and a more hardcore machine than the Wii. And so I just think that that's going to have more inertia into the next generation. But do I think, and I think it could be 100 million unit seller. It's not going to be like some little thing, but I just think about PS2 getting to 150. It's like that's never going to, that's like not really possible. Like there's there's a whole confluence of things that got it to that. International availability. It was manufactured for like fucking 15 years. And it was a DVD player. Right, exactly. There was all these things. So that PS5 is probably going to get to 100 million is pretty great because it doesn't have any of those advantages. And so Nintendo needs to look at it the same way.
Right.
I think
our understanding of like what a console's ceiling for sales is it's kind of grossly like skewed because of those things, where it's like, okay, you have like the PS2, like you said, with the DVD player, and then you have the Wii, which was marketed as like, people in the gaming space knew it was a game console, but it was kind of marketed outside of that. Like my mom had a Wii, and she wasn't playing games on it. She just had like Wii Fit and stuff. So like that audience was like so much more casual. So like there were a lot of Wiis out there, but like not a lot of them were being used in a way that was like really doing much for the studios that were making games for it.
Right.
I know a lot of people who had Wiis in their apartments or house that like they used once for like Wii bowling and then never again. I don't think that's true with the Switch necessarily. I think the Switch is like, it is a casual machine in some sense, but it's not marketed towards like people who wouldn't use it. It's actually like a bit of sophisticated tech, especially back when it came out in 2017. I remember being like transfixed by how interesting of an idea it was. And that's why I think a lot of people jumped on for the curiosity of that. And you might lose some people with this new one for that reason, because the curiosity is like kind of not there. This is more iterative. This is more, SNES to NES kind of situation, where it's like, this is the same thing, but better. It could do more. It's got a little more features, a little bit, but like not really. Like the mouse thing is cool. I think the only thing that's really compelling me to get this machine later down the line really is the inclusion of mouse controls for like certain games. Like I think that's like a really interesting and a really smart idea. But it's just, I think you're gonna have some peel off with the people who just jumped onto this new Nintendo thing that was exciting and new and innovative and novel. Now that you have something that is more iterative and not poking that same curiosity or intrigue, but it's still going to be a shit ton of people. The second there's a new Animal Crossing, the second there's a new 3D Mario game, the second there's a new Zelda, the second there's a new Smash, people are, if there is going to be a new Smash, I don't even know what their opinion on that is, but it's gonna do very, very well. But I do think that ceiling is I think it's a manufactured ceiling in some way.
Now, the one thing I want to leave this for now, and then we'll get into what we're going to talk about next, Dustin, with game pricing and all the rest and all the other stuff that you want to talk about, is I think it would be incredibly foolish to underestimate Nintendo. I've made this mistake multiple times. Even when I was a Nintendo fan and a reluctant Nintendo fan, when, I really came to love the GameCube, but I wasn't blown away by it until a little ways in. I had it immediately. But I was still like, the PS2 and even a little bit of the Dreamcast and other things. And certainly in the Wii era, I was like, I can't this company's dead to me. And then during the Wii U era, I'm like, maybe this company's dead. Like it seemed that it's hard to imagine that was kind of, we were talking earnestly at that time. I remember very clearly the op-eds and the think pieces and the podcast or whatever. Will Nintendo publish their games on PlayStation? Like that was an actual thing people were saying, because the Wii U was selling so poorly. And the 3DS did respectably at 75 million, but it took a while. And it, as you guys might remember, it launched really poorly and they dropped the price. It seemed like they were in trouble. Like I remember even making the case at the time, and I still think it's not correct, obviously, but I think it would be awesome is if they just stopped making hardware and put their games and like focused on extracting power out of other people's machines, the one thing that I think this is very unintuitive, and I think people don't understand this, is that PlayStation makes way more money than Nintendo.
Yeah.
Like more than 2 times, I think, the amount of revenue. This is because Nintendo is very reliant on itself. And Sony is very reliant on everyone else. What I mean by that is Sony is getting 30% cuts of every game you can imagine. Many of them are not going to be on Switch and aren't on Switch. People play Fortnite there. People play all these different, they're just getting a shit ton of latent money. Nintendo doesn't have that. They rely on their own. They have a little bit of that, obviously, but not nearly as much. And they're very reliant on their own product. But this is a very safe place to be because they extract way more profit out of the money they make. And so they have a way to kind of be patient, burn things slowly. They just have way greater control economically over their own situation in a way that they never did before. And it would be really surprising to me, I guess, is what I'm saying. It would be very surprising to me if Switch 2 wasn't a hit. Because then that really means that then even the Switch stuff is fickle, and then you really never know. And really the only company, and this sounds fanboyish, but it's just an observation, the only gaming hardware company that really has had successive, like uninterrupted hit consoles is PlayStation. And none of them selling fewer than 85 million units. And the PS3 or PS5 is obviously going to pass that this year, probably. So,
yeah.
It's interesting to just think about the different ways that they approach the same problem and how complementary they are to each other. Like PS5 and Switch can live together and will. Switch 2. And if anything, I think Switch 2 will be more aggressive about going after the games that would typically not be available on it. I think Borderlands 4, for instance, is interesting. Now how is it going to run at 30 frames a second, 1080p? Maybe. I don't know.
Dude, Cyberpunk is running at 40 on an old build. That's what Gene said, I think. So, baby.
All right. Now, Dustin, what did you want to talk about? I want to pitch it back to you because you want to talk about software?
Well, no, the game pricing thing, I think, is the main thing, at least for punching up. A lot of people writing in, and I'm assuming a lot of people wrote in here just because people are wondering what an $80 game means for the rest of the industry. I was thinking about this morning, is that part of the problem for me, I really want to know how Mario Kart World does at $80. Like, what is the desire for Mario Kart high enough in the consumer's minds that it can withstand an $80 price point, thus sending a signal potentially? The problem is it's a pack-in game. So most people are going to get it with the console, and then it's a $50 game. So it's not really a good test bed. But for weeks on this show, we've been talking, and not just us, but everyone has been talking about this idea of, like, could Grand Theft Auto be the game that breaks the barrier, breaks the seal of a game that is a AAA game that costs more than $70 at launch, that isn't like a special edition or something like that. And so I'm curious. I kind of think that this game will be successful regardless of the price tag. I think other Nintendo IP could also be successful at $80. I'm not saying I like spending more money for a game, but I just think that the market has shown that it will withstand that because of the desire for the product is high enough. And will that mean that Ghosts of Yote comes out and they're like, all right, well, Nintendo did it. They got the pass. Could we do it too?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I want to get into this. The unfortunately named Cum Materia wrote in.
Oh,
said, "Hey CDC, longtime listener, first time write in. So Nintendo has finally revealed the price of their new console, the Nintendo Switch 2, and its software, and it has sparked a conversation about game pricing again. On one hand, I understand where the outrage comes from because wages have stagnated, with productivity overcoming it, seemingly decreasing our purchasing power to decades prior. Gaming on release is becoming less affordable. But I also think people are too quick to dismiss or ignore the simultaneous financial reality of AAA gaming becoming more expensive from the production standpoint due to inflation, bloat, and other factors. People don't want to see layoffs, but they also want producers to make the market more comfortable for them or their own somehow. My question is, what needs to change in order to come close to appeasing both sides, and is it even possible? Does it come from a further exploration of scope and respective pricing, as Colin has mentioned? Thank you guys for your time. Also, I've been listening to Colin talk PlayStation since I was 8 years old because of my older brother turning 23 this month. So thanks for all the hard work over the years, and I hope you feel old. I do. Thank you, Cum Materia, for writing in. I don't want that Materia equipped. Or maybe I do, depending on the situation. So there is a tension here because, and I think it is an important topic, Dustin, to talk about, and we'll get Chris on the record too, is like many things economically can be true at the same time. There's no doubt that there is a problem comparable to the cost of living, what people are earning on average, and then what even luxuries like gaming cost, and the discrepancy between these things. People's wages aren't keeping up with inflation. Things are not great economically. They haven't been for years. I mean, we've talked about this. Is like, I'm so sick of the smoke and mirrors economy stuff. It's kind of why it's part of the reason why I support shaking things up and trying different things with protectionism and so on. In some cases, is it's like, who's benefiting? Just the rich and the wealthy. The workers have less. The working poor are desperate. The middle class is becoming increasingly desperate. It's not a great situation out there, and that is and it bothers me when statistics are like, oh, the unemployment rate is this and all of the rest. And I'm like, I just feel like we all understand that a lot of this stuff is fake. It's always revised later. It's never right, and it's about the pain you feel inside, like when you go to the pump or when you're at the grocery store or whatever. It's your like reality. It's like it's the lived experience, as it were, if you want to use that term. And that's the cloud over everything. But it doesn't also change the realities on the ground for the manufacturer of the different things that we buy and purchase or whatever. And the only thing that I guess is relevant is what people can withstand before they simply don't buy something anymore. That's the real sticking point. And I honestly don't think $80 games is going to change much. Like we've said before, that because inflation got so crazy during COVID, like horrible, which is part of the problem we find ourselves in, is like this just latent, like we basically lost 20% of the value of our money. Like no one wants to talk about that because it's horrible to think about, right? And that needs to be ameliorated and fixed while the cost of manufacture goes up, while all these trade wars happen, while all this shit is going on. And it makes for a very unsteady situation. I'm concerned about the thing is that we have so many things to be concerned about that I'm like, I don't really even care about the gaming industry in this regard. It's like, whatever, man. Like what's going to happen to it is going to happen to it. We have bigger fish to fry. But I think that if you want to just be in real terms, like the Nintendo fan base is, I think, hardcore enough to buy an $80 Mario Kart game by the millions and basically manufacture some level of consent, as you're saying, Dustin, for other companies to go. But I don't think, I would love for Sony to be solid enough to know that they shouldn't do this in the generation. That like these price increases don't typically happen in the generation. They did in the PS3 generation. Well, actually not. It was like the PS2 to PS3 generation was the jump to 60. And the jump to 70 happened with the PS5 generation. The jump to 80, I think, should just happen with first party and second party in the PS6 generation. And I think everyone can kind of absorb that. But Nintendo did everyone a big solid. And the one company that I think about more imminently in this regard is Take-Two. Because I think they're just going to charge $80 for Grand Theft Auto anyway. I think that was always going to be their plan. But I think that they understood that there was going to be some sort of PR consequence for it. Probably wouldn't have really been that consequential because they're making so much money on the game anyway. But now they're just like, oh, like we can still do it. We were going to anyway. I mean, this is my hypothesis. And we don't even have to worry about the PR. I mean, the PR would be totally disingenuous because look at Nintendo. And we're selling Grand Theft Auto 6, not like $1 billion game, not respectfully a Mario Kart game that could run on the PS4. So, I think so in other words, all of this can be true and actually just is true. It's all fucked up. But I think the mistake people make is they're like, because the worker is suffering, games shouldn't go up in price. And I'm like, it's not that easy. Right. The tension is in between them about what the worker can withstand. But if the worker needs to be paid more, doesn't the person making the games? If price of manufacture is going up for all of these items, wouldn't it be the same for games? This is the thing that people have to kind of internalize, I think, because it's also true. And I'll say, like, my personal take is $70 to $80 isn't that big of a deal. But if you really have and I think that if you can't afford an $80 game, you can't afford a $70 game based on the value of $10. Unfortunately, I wish $10 was like a really meaningful amount of money still, but it's not. It sucks. That's like, you can get like a fucking supersized meal at McDonald's maybe or something. It's crazy how much the value of the dollar has eroded. So my thing is like, if people are scared off by that price, I think I get it. Money's tight. It's really hard out there. I'm totally sympathetic to it. And maybe we should just be not focusing on luxury things like this at all. Buy old games, old hardware. But I just think that resistance against these prevailing winds is not going to matter, and Nintendo's going to make a lot of money doing this, and it's just given others permission to do it too. But I hope it doesn't happen this generation with everything. That would be lame. I still think $70 is a good price point. It sucks that inflation ate it, but I just don't think people are going to respond well to some of that stuff. Comparable to what Nintendo is able to get away with. So that's a lot. Chris, do you have anything you'd like to add? Take it away.
Well, I don't know. I think I'm in agreement with you that 70 to 80 is not a huge jump, but I also find myself thinking like 80, like it's not so much about the jump so much as it is literally the number 80 for a video game. I think there's just something, it's almost like there's like a threshold about that, where it's like with a 7, you're kind of dancing on the line, and then 8, you're like, damn, this is damn near 10. It feels, there's like I don't even know what, like a psychological thing where it's like, that's damn near 100, that's, or at least that's whenever I see something that's like $80.
Definitely.
I think about that.
Definitely. That's like the threshold where you're starting to think about 100. Yeah. I absolutely agree.
There's like magnetism to the rounding where it's just like, oh, it's 80. And then it's like 100. Just kind of feels that way to people. And the same thing happens in reverse. It's the same reason why, like, we have the, 1999 instead of 20. Because it feels 1999 feels closer to 1 than it does to 20 for some reason.
Yeah, it obviously works because it's been a thing forever.
Exactly. So like I understand people, and I mean I understand the realities of it. I understand the the cost of manufacturing. I also understand people who look at something like Mario Kart or any game really with an $80 price point and they just kind of have a line that they're just like, I don't know, man. I don't know about this, especially when it just is so like I guess with Nintendo, it's not this, but the general audience is like, I can just wait for a sale or it'll come out on like some service or whatever. Like, I think a lot of people are being acclimated to that as well. And so like, that's going to become a little bit more enticing, I think, as a result of this kind of, if this is like an overall push, which I don't think it is, or I don't think it will be until, something makes that jump. I just, I don't know. I think we are living in a very strange period in time where I think we're going to see everything shoot up. And I don't begrudge people for looking at this and being like, damn, one more thing. Because realistically, like a long ass time ago, luxuries were expensive and a lot of necessities were comparatively cheap. Like you think about the cost of a house in like, the 50s or whatever versus even just the price of like a luxury kind of item. Think about how like expensive like a computer used to be even compared to an apartment. And now it's like completely reversed. It's like, your phone's a pocket computer and it costs like a fraction of what an apartment does. Relative. And so like, I think as our luxuries have gotten cheaper and our necessities have gotten exponentially more expensive, that's been kind of like a balancing act to cushion the blow of a lot of this. It's why so many people have like a great 4K TV for $250.
Right.
That would be insane. I know people who bought $10,000 TVs in the 90s.
Yeah, totally, dude. I remember that. Yeah.
So like, it's different. And now I think we're going to start seeing luxuries get up to that level. And I don't know if necessarily people can withstand it, but we'll find out. I think Mario Kart's still going to sell exceptionally well. I think that audience is very dedicated. It's also a bundle, so I think a lot of people are just going to default to that. And $500 for a console really that's not really that much at all, I think. For a Switch, it might be for some people, but like I remember paying $500 for like an Xbox 360 Elite. So to me, whatever.
Yeah, it's the most expensive Nintendo hardware ever. I mean, it must be. That's really interesting.
Yeah, but it's not $599 like it's not. Again, it is that psychological kind of like once you pass a certain number, I think that's why it's $449 too, and $500 for the bundle. I think it's like we can't go $550. Like there's something about that where it's like that's $550 might as well be $1,000. Like to some people, like genuinely.
Yeah.
in the way that price psychology works, but I don't know. I think Nintendo's going to sell a shit ton of these.
Yeah, it's a launch game. Launch first party games do well. And it's going to be great, I'm sure. I mean, I'm not a Mario Kart person, but I'm sure it's going to be really great. Yeah, I think well, Dustin, do you want to get back in here? Do you have anything else you want to say before
I want to say that Materia here mentions about how people don't want to see layoffs and game developers taken care of and things like that. I was thinking about this a lot, and I was looking, and it is interesting that Nintendo, from what I was reading, is for that region of Japan the second highest average salary as far as overall their employees, paid significantly better than other developers. They also are not completely immune to layoffs, but in this season of layoffs, the only thing we heard about was when there was a contracting team that was reorganized where some of them were let go, but they actually weren't Nintendo employees because they were bringing it internal. So it's a very secure job. And then the last thing about a lot of people want is that their games to work and be of high quality when they come out. Now, not everyone's going to like Nintendo games. That's fine. But consistently, when I get a Nintendo game and I put it in my Switch, I just instinctually go and click update. And not every time, but often there is no day one update and the game works at launch. Now, of course, there are sometimes performance issues. Often, though, with mainline Nintendo games, not really. So Nintendo kind of has a lot of these qualities that people want. And as you said earlier, Colin, too, it's not like they are making money like Sony. Oh, and the last thing, people always complain about CEOs making too much money. I looked today. How much do you think the CEO of Nintendo makes?
A few million, probably.
It's like 2 million.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, that's an embarrassing. Like how little it is.
Yeah. So it's
that's
like, man,
not worth it. I'm telling you right now, $2 million for the stress of running Nintendo is not worth it. Like that's, you need 10 million at least, something like that. Yeah.
Right. So it feels a little hypocritical to me seeing a lot of, I don't know. I'm risking sounding very corporate apologist here, but it's like Nintendo is exemplifying a lot of these things that you want to see as far as wages, security, quality of games at launch.
Yeah, I agree.
Fair reasonable well, honestly, under reasonable for our argument of their CEO. And it's like, now, and again, Nintendo, man, they have had some real shitty business practices. I don't want to defend everything. They're releasing that fucking tutorial, like the game that should be a packing game. It's like Welcome Switch 2.
Yeah, Switch.
They're charging $6 for that. It's like, yo, come on.
That rules.
That's dumb. So clearly they're not perfect by any means. And when I was host of Punching Up, we'd always joke that we were like the most hateful Nintendo podcast of the Nintendo podcast because of how much we shit on them. But it's just, I don't know, take a step back. Look at the situation. Yeah,
I agree. And I want to reiterate, $2 million for the CEO of Nintendo is an embarrassment. I can't believe they let him even get paid that little. You have any idea how crazy that job is?
Yeah. Let's see here. Furukawa makes $2.51 million.
Yeah, that's. I'm sure he has options or something because that's like. Yeah.
That seems fine.
I'm bringing
I'll do it.
I mean, it's a great wage. That's a great wage for an amazing wage for a lot of things. I'm saying to be like the chief executive, the decision maker of a company like that is so heavy. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm out to lunch, but again, you and I talk about this all the time where I'm like, sure. I don't think CEOs should make 25 million, 50 million. It's like, no, I think that's ridiculous, but they should make a good amount of money. It's crazy.
I know what you're saying. I just look at it as just like, I feel like how many times have we looked at a decision that's made by a company where like, we could have told you that was a bad call. You know, and so part of me thinks it's like it can't be like crazy difficult. Like I'm sure it's stressful and harrowing in some places, but like I feel like you'd know what the right decision would be to make is. I feel like you got to really fumble over yourself to. Oh man! All right, here's a packet. All right, we're not gonna do a Switch 2. We're gonna make it the Wii 2 or whatever. And it's just like it's not a good idea. Anybody could have told you that.
Super Switch.
So Super Switch would have been nice.
Apparently, they considered that.
I'm sure they did. I think they are. I think I mentioned it on some other show that was it Summon Sign, I think. But I think they're just too gun shy about. They don't want to get cute with naming conventions ever since like the Wii U, I think.
Right.
I think they just want to have a clear, concise, like, listen, this is the second one of the thing that you love. So go here. And the Super Switch is like, is that like what is that? Is that just like a 4K Switch, or like is that the OLED? Like, I think they just want to avoid all that shit.
That's true.
Which is smart. Right. It's a little boring, but it's smart.
Yeah, and that 2.5 million number was from 2023. And it is important to consider like the cost of living in Japan even today is much lower here. Yeah. So, well, much lower
there.
Would be higher. I don't know. But yeah, I looked also Phil Spencer. How much do you think Phil makes?
Oh, Jesus.
Is that public? I don't know. I would assume between 4 and 7 probably would be an appropriate number for that job.
I'm trying to find an actual news source. The thing that keeps coming up that people are discussing is 10.
Yeah, that probably sounds about right. These are
wild.
It's I'm not saying, dude, I want to be clear. Like, I'm not saying like that's not a lot of money. What I'm saying is that these jobs deserve a lot of money. Like, I believe that. Like, some of them are horrible at their job and don't deserve shit. But see, everything is at the nexus of that executive suite, right? Like, at a company with 20,000, 100,000 people, whatever these various companies have. I mean, not Nintendo, of course, not that big, but I don't know. I think that rampant CEO pay. It's like the cost of. It's like very existence of billionaires doesn't preclude the existence. Like, I don't think billionaires should even be a thing, really. Like, it's crazy that people can even have that much money, but they earned it. They have it. We haven't done anything about it yet. Doesn't mean that people just can't be filthy rich still and have hundreds of millions of dollars. Who gives a shit?
Sure.
So yeah, that's what I mean. Somewhere in the middle.
I agree. I support people being filthy rich. But I do think like that's
there's a thing where it's like too much. Like, we will exist. I mean, it's not going to be that long from now. It might have been Elon Musk if it wasn't for all like how unpopular he's become. But there will be a person with $1 trillion. And at that point, it's like, what?
But $1 billion, it's crazy. I just feel like I always think about it in time. Like I talked about it recently, where it's like I think about it in time, right? Where it's like a million seconds is I think like 13 days or something like that, right? And 1 billion seconds is 31 years. Like, that's like the discrepancy, like seconds. Like, I don't think you can have $1 billion and not have stolen it. Basically, like I don't think it's possible to earn that money. You can make many millions. I think that's totally valid. But like, come on.
I can see a way of latently making investments and making billions of dollars, but it is maybe. But it's like
it's a red flag.
I don't know. It's vulturish in some sense. I don't know. I don't know how many times I can say like I don't know what to like. I am so satisfied with the little bit that I have,
exactly,
that I can't even imagine what it would be like to have that much money. Exactly. And all it would materially change, I guess, is like the niceness of things I have, because it wouldn't change anything else,
right.
So I just don't. it's crazy for me. Like, I would be giving away money at that point, and I mean that straight up. I would be
absolutely
building the Moriarty Institute of History at Northeastern University. I would go back to my high school and build a new football stadium or something. I would give remember I said if I was a billionaire, the thing I would do is like urban blight, where I would like go into cities like Detroit and Cleveland, places like that, and just rip down all these old buildings and just let nature reclaim it. I would do shit like that. I wouldn't just sit on it.
Right. Yeah. Those buildings are server farms now.
Right. Exactly.
Probably.
Yeah. That's where we actually live right now in one of them, because we're in a pod and we don't.
Oh yeah. We don't even know. Yeah. We're just server farms. That's great. That's so terrible. Like, it's actually kind of real. There's like a lot of abandoned buildings that are just like, they got servers up the ass, like mining cryptocurrency and shit. It's fucking wild. Ugh.
Yeah. It's like Mr. Robot shit.
Yeah.
Where they were like I think their base was in like an abandoned fair. It's like, oh, that's
right.
Nothing creepy about that. All right. So that's all. Is that all we have to say about Nintendo? I mean, we spent a lot of time on it. I don't mind talking about Nintendo, of course. I love Nintendo. Loved them anyway. I mean, and I still think that they're an exceptional company. I mean, what you said about them is exactly right, Dustin, by the way. And because I think you said like it comes off as a little apologist. It's like, no, it's exactly right. They are a quality oriented, laser focused company. They make bad decisions sometimes. They make catastrophic decisions. Like Virtual Boy was fucking horrible.
Yeah.
The Wii U sucked.
Right.
And obviously they lost the it's crazy to think that they went from 62 NESs, 62 million NESs to 50 million SNESs to 32 million N64s to 22 million GameCubes. Like, they were losing. So it's not like they were always in good shape, but they always made great games. And I know because I was playing all of them for many years. And like you said, the games are just work. They have a high quality kind of concept of how things go. Even when things were catastrophically broken or had like bugs in them, I remember like Metroid Other M and things like that. It was never, and which is not even an internal game. It's like it's never like crazy.
Right.
It's like I remember Telltale's Game of Thrones was just deleting your saves. Right. Like things like things like that don't happen.
No.
Or you played Borderlands 3 for like for the wrong 3 days and just didn't save your progress. It's like, oh, okay.
It's a crazy world out there, man, with like quality assurance for a lot. Yeah, so they have a seal of approval that's pretty good, I think.
Agree.
Like, especially for their first party. Like, no one can take that away from them for sure. And props to them for not lying about stuff that I would have been like, maybe we should fudge this a little bit, because like there's a scene where like they talk about the game chat or whatever. It's like you could even stream your gameplay to your friends, and it's like at like 10 frames a second.
Yeah,
and I'm like, bro,
it's like 480p at best.
Yeah, like 480p, and it's like a damn slide. It's impossible to follow. And it's just like that's so funny, because that's definitely how it's gonna work. And they showed it,
at best.
At best, and they showed it. Props to them, because they could have did a Project Natal or whatever, and would have been like, this is Milo. He's a real little boy. You're gonna. He was selling a little boy in a machine. It's so crazy. Whatever.
I was watching Kyle Bossman's video about 5 takeaways from the Nintendo Switch. He brought up a great point that the C button, the chat feature is going to be free for a year, but after that, it's going to be a pay to press button because you have to have the subscription to use chat. So everyone's controller, a little paid button there.
That is funny. The idea of that feels kind of nefarious in some way. Like, it's almost like, all right, let's have it free for a year and get everybody really accustomed to using it. And then like, we'll take it away, and then they'll have to, because it'll be baked into their routine of using the machine.
Yeah. The thing about Switch Online at this point is that it really is a very, very good value. And they're adding GameCube now too. Like, it's initially for Switch Online, but it's really not that bad at all.
No. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on this. Nintendo Switch 2, early June. Mike is obviously going to get one, so I'll have one to mess around with. The one thing I was saying on Summon Sign was I didn't know that Metroid Prime 2. I just always thought Metroid Prime 4 was a Switch 2 game. And I'm like profoundly less excited about it for some reason now that it's like the stinky Switch game that they're just porting.
Oh yeah, it
runs at 4K 60.
I saw that it even runs it
crazy
at 120. Is that true?
120 1080p.
Yeah, that's great. That's and the mouse control is actually pretty cool. That's one thing I think is pretty cool. I hope that the mouse becomes a thing that convinces Sony to return to an official mouse and gets more mouse and keyboard support. Like there were branded mice for PS1 and PS2 and stuff, but we've kind of gone away from that. And playing a game like Civilization, that would be all you need. That's what they were showing it, I think, for was Civ 7. And it's like, you really just need a mouse for this game. It would be so nice to be able to do that. Just put it on the arm of your chair, on your couch or something, or on your lap. I think it'd be nice.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I think people who are like talking about how like there's not enough different about it, it's like I think it's kind of in the middle ground where it's like it is the same form factor and the same general concept, but I think that mouse thing is a pretty big deal. I think it's a really cool idea. It's really the only thing that's compelling me in any real way towards the machine.
All right. So you're not going to get it, Chris, at launch? Dustin, are you?
Not immediately, no.
Are you going to get it, Dustin?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. I'm excited.
Cool. Very well. All right. Let's get into some other small news items here. This has been going around. This is from Alinea Analytics, which is an analysis firm. Now, Dustin, are we allowed to talk about what we might interview this? We maybe have the opportunity to interview the person that did this story.
Well, I'm reviewing the message now. He offered to guest. So I asked him for his email. No reply yet. So maybe we'll get ghosted here. But
yeah, Reese Elliott is the guy's name, spelled RHYS. It's always a very sophisticated way to spell it, and it's interesting. So from Alinea Analytics, says, how well have Xbox games on PlayStation been selling so far? It differs. And they write in part, quote, it's undeniable. Xbox is now a third-party publisher. Games that would have once been siloed on Xbox consoles are now on Steam and even PlayStation. This is fantastic for gamers, but it's also great, no critical for Xbox. The brand has frankly been struggling on the console front due to stagnating Xbox Game Pass numbers. Xbox's plan was always to shift from a box to a brand, and we're almost there. More and more Xbox games are coming to PlayStation, including some big ones next month with Forza Horizon and Indiana Jones. But how well are the already released Xbox ports doing on PlayStation? While Xbox games have now dominated PlayStation charts at launch, the actual numbers have been a black box until now. In this article, our best-in-class methodology for copies sold across PlayStation and Steam finally shed light on how Xbox games are doing on other platforms. So there's a methodology here, and this is what they just said. I will get into the numbers, and I want to know what you guys think of them. And in some sense, I believe them, because like, what do I know? I mean, maybe, but it's like, I can't imagine how they would be able to garner this information. That's like what I've been trying to wrap my brain around, is like, how do you possibly know? And maybe that's what we could talk to this guy about when he's on, because I'm confused by that. Steam is a lot easier to gauge than the closed platforms like Xbox and PlayStation. And I don't know if you guys remember back in the day, it used to be much more common, like in the PS3 and Xbox 360 era, when there would be like online leaderboards and you could just go backwards up one page and it would bring you to the last leader on the leaderboard, which would give you the number of players of the game. And the companies, because this was like a new generation of always connected consoles, and then the companies became quickly aware that you could do that, and they stopped doing that because we were starting to write stories being like, all right, so it seems like this many people are playing this game, this many people have connected to this game, and so on, and they don't want that kind of information. So it's quite obscure. And as I've said in the past, it's not really necessarily clear, especially for games in the physical media and that are available on lots of different platforms like GOG and all these other places. It's hard to even know really what you sold. You know, like a baseline number at some point if you sell enough. So with all that said, maybe we'll be able to talk to this guy. And so hopefully he gets back to you with an email address and we'll get him on the show. But here's what he says. Quote, Sea of Thieves, Rare's co-op pirate romp that came to Xbox and PC in 2018 and hit PlayStation in April of 2014, sold 1.8 million copies on PlayStation. Grounded, Obsidian's co-op survival game that launched on Xbox and PC in 2020 and came to PlayStation in April 2024, sold 432,200 copies. Like, that's such an exact number. I'm very curious. Now, these might be garnered from leaderboards and stuff like that in those games, but as far as I know, that stuff's very obscure now. So it seems like, the game's already on Steam, so it doesn't really matter. But there are other games that haven't done as well. Or I guess, depending on how you look at it. Hi-Fi Rush, a rhythm-based platformer action game, which came to Xbox and PC in 2023 and PlayStation in March 2024, sold 137,200 copies on PlayStation. I bought one of them. I never played it, though. Pentiment, a historical adventure game from Obsidian that came to Xbox and PC in 2022 and to PlayStation in February 2024, sold 14,000 copies. That seems really low, sadly low, considering that game is fucking awesome. And I was one of those 14,000, if that's the true number. And then Age of Mythology Retold, a remake of classic RTS, came to Xbox and PC in September 2024 and PS5 last month, sold 41,000 copies on PlayStation so far. So these numbers are quite scattered. Yeah. And interesting that Age of Mythology just came out, and selling 40,000 I don't think is so bad. Hi-Fi Rush 137,000, I think that's very respectable. I don't know, dude, like, did it sell 137,000 copies on Xbox? I think it's a fairly reasonable question to ask.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they're pretty happy with that. Pentiment, 14,000 copies makes it so that it's not really even worth it. But that surprises me. Did it really sell that badly? That's such a bummer.
That doesn't really surprise me at all, though, for Pentiment, because Pentiment is such a specific. That game is exactly for 14,000 people. Yeah, it's not. I'm actually surprised that it did 261,000 on Steam. Like, I don't know. It just seemed like it seems like such a very specific, like, niche kind of game, where like it's not a stream game really. It's not a traditional video game in my opinion, really. Like, I remember playing through it and I was like, this is kind of more of. It almost felt like, I don't even know, like an interactive museum or something. Like, I don't know. There's something weird about it that, like, it just didn't even register to me as a game as I was playing it. It felt like something different.
Yeah, it is different. It is definitely different. I loved it. But
That's
yeah, I can
cool.
see
Very
most
interesting idea.
people not being into it. And so yeah, maybe 14,000 is reasonable. And you can even imagine some of those were curious buyers just with seeing an Xbox game out there. But Hi-Fi, did pretty well. But what do we think? Dustin, let's get you on the record here. Sea of Thieves, 1.8 million. We had a last reporting that Jez Corden at Windows Central months ago had said that they'd sold more than 1 million. So that seems pretty successful. That's a 6-year-old game by the time it came out to PlayStation 5. And then Grounded, almost 500,000, like 436,000 and counting is, I think, still very respectable too. Actually higher than I would have thought. So these numbers are all over the map for me as far as how I feel about them, gauged to what I thought these respective games did. What do you think?
Yeah, there's on this website, you can see there's charts that you can see how much they sold in comparison to Steam. So Sea of Thieves on Steam so far has sold 13.3 million versus PlayStation's 1.8. Of course, it's been on Steam years longer and has also probably had many sales on Steam at this point. But I think regardless, 13.3 million, pretty good. And the gap is even, is it lower? Grounded was 4.1 million on Steam and then 436,000, as you mentioned, for Grounded. So interesting comparison point there. But yeah, I think that Sea of Thieves, that's the game that is just so surprising in general, just because when it launched, people were not very impressed with it. And they've really kind of made something incredible out of it. People that play it love it. It continues to be one of Xbox's biggest success in terms of multiplayer live service type games. So, and as far as Pentiment, yeah, it's a shame, but I'm kind of with Chris that I'm not surprised. Just a little too weird, I think, for a bigger adoption than that. But of course, weird. Not saying anything about the quality of it at all. I haven't played it personally, but yeah, 14K. The biggest question for me is that these are all kind of small fry compared to what they could do, and what eventually will do.
Yeah, Gears and Halo and Forza Horizon, I think, is going to be fairly big too.
Oh right, yeah, big one.
And then if they go day and date with, and I think they might with games like Fable and some of these other things, I think that they can push quite a few games too. But again, I don't mean to be super skeptical. I'm always just inherently skeptical of numbers that come from the ether like this or from mysterious means, just because I've been in the industry for so long and I have seen people throw around numbers for games that are just not accurate. And sometimes that's confirmed. Sometimes you just hear that behind the scenes. Sometimes it is accurate. And I would just love to know what the methodology is behind whatever formula or whatever insight you're using that would be able to tell you how a smattering of games like that, like, again, it would be easier for me to understand how you might get that information about Sea of Thieves or Grounded, but how would you get that information about Pentiment? Like, I don't even understand how that could be. So again, maybe we'll talk. Very interesting. But in the meantime, fun data to talk about and digest. Next story up is a quick one. I just thought I'd put this out there because it's funny. This comes from Deal Labs, the French web magazine that we cite often. They seem to have some sort of insight into PlayStation marketing or retail channels and digital channels. I don't really know what. They're kind of mysterious about it, but they always report things before they're announced. And this next one is that The Last of Us is reportedly getting a new special edition on PS5. It says, quote, according to our information, a new special edition of a game in the Last of Us franchise is in the works with a physical release on PS5. However, we haven't yet been able to determine which game it will be. Will it be for the first installment, the second, a pack of both, or even a hypothetical part 3? I mean, come on, guys. Only time will tell. However, we can already tell you the price of the special edition. It will cost 119.99 euros and 109.99 US dollars. It will therefore be available in European and North American regions. Everything seems to indicate that this is the officialization of this edition, as well as the opening of pre-orders would take place very soon, and a time window that we estimate to be within 2 months. I wonder if this is The Last of Us 1 and 2 together.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the only thing that would justify that price, unless it was a true special edition where they're going to release some sort of physical stuff. It has to be. They didn't say it here. They don't seem mega clued in on this. I guess it's like it's got to be something to do with the HBO show, right? And
sure, yeah.
Once the HBO show airs or is finished airing, so that it wouldn't be a spoiler, then you're like, here's The Last of Us Part 2, something, Part 1 and 2 together. I don't know what it is, because these games are all available, have been available multiple times, but that it is becoming a joke that Sony keeps and I think rightfully a joke, that they keep re-releasing shit over and over again. Why not report on this one too? We'll see what happens. This seems very real, but what the nature of it is unknown. Chris?
I mean, like we made fun of this stuff before it got this ridiculous. So like I think this is mega funny now. I think it's beyond ridiculous now, and I just think it's funny that they're doing something like this again. Like, God bless, make your money. Like I do want to say, like, I want to preface that, like, while I do think this is hilarious and I think it's ridiculous and I think it's absurd that they're doing this, it is ultimately the fault of people for continuing to buy it and make it a reasonable thing. Like, whenever people complain about, oh, they put Skyrim on everything, and it's like, yeah, because people buy Skyrim on everything. You know, they wouldn't do it if people weren't buying it. So this seems to indicate that people are totally down, and you know, they have telemetry that tells them that, like, yeah, people will buy this. This is like a big game, so it's like, yeah, I don't blame them. Go ahead, go do it. But it's a little tacky, I think, is the word.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, especially with backwards compatibility, multiple re-releases. It's like, just move on. But I also understand the corporate instinct to say, like, well, we have this other thing going on here. We gotta, take advantage of it. Our HBO show is huge. It's critically acclaimed. People are going to watch it. We're going to sell more games. Like, I would imagine the HBO show has been a fairly good thing for Sony PlayStation as far as sent people buying the game. Like, I wonder how many they haven't really announced numbers of The Last of Us in a long time. I'd be very curious to know how many copies of this thing they've sold. I bet you'd be surprised. I've heard things behind the scenes I'm not going to say. But yeah. So Dustin, anything you want to add? Are you going to get The Last of Us Part 2 re-release, Part 2 remastered? No return.
No. I think that this could be ridiculous, but it also could be, if it is a dual pack, let's say it includes Last of Us Part 1, Last of Us Part 2, which I was trying to tell if the PS5 port, if there's a physical, I mean, there is a physical version of it. It was sold out on Amazon. So I wonder if they're like thinking about how they want to have the product that's like, hey, here's both Last of Us games. It's in a double pack. It's going to cost, you would hope, a tiny bit cheaper, but maybe not. So in that sense, it's like, hey, you watch the show, now play the game. Here's what you need. And it's a reasonable price for both. It's not going to appeal to us. And most of the people that listen to the show that have played those games and probably already own them.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's not that bad. But at the same time, it's like, man, they're already out there. They've been on sale a million times. But again, the corporate mind, like, have the product on the shelf ready to point them to. Makes sense.
Yeah, it's an important note too. I should have brought this up during the Nintendo conversation, is that Sony does drop the prices of its games. Like, Nintendo doesn't. That's why the $80 price point is actually so sticky. Like, well, they just stay with it, as opposed to the greater flexibility of finding games for cheap. So stop buying it.
Right.
Yeah, like, how many times do you need to buy the same game? But I'm of the mind that I think a lot of new people are buying this stuff too, and that's exciting because it gets more people into PlayStation. And so we'll keep an eye out for this, but it's obviously real because DL Labs has been a very reliable source over the years. Okay, a few other things. I thought this was interesting. I wanted to run this by you. Push Square wrote about it, though. It comes from Bloomberg. I just don't have a Bloomberg subscription, so I can't read it fully. Kale Adam, who's a listener of the show and has been on the show before, says, WB Games reportedly cancels unannounced Hogwarts Legacy PS5 and PS4 DLC. It says, quote, Warner Brothers Games has reportedly canceled an unannounced game expansion to Hogwarts Legacy, its smash hit Harry Potter RPG. The DLC was planned to be released alongside an expanded version of the base game. News comes to us via Bloomberg, a Bloomberg report, which reveals that the paid DLC was supposed to launch alongside a definitive edition of Hogwarts Legacy. Apparently, the cancellation was due to concerns that, quote, the amount of content was not substantial enough to justify the price being considered, end quote. Bloomberg asked WB for comment, but the publisher declined. This is a little bit of a surprise to me, and I think shows how much of a clusterfuck it is right now at Warner. Not only did we report about the clusterfuck at WB San Diego that I reported on about their canceled kart racer a few weeks ago, and we obviously know that Multiverses went belly up less than a year after they bought the studio outright. Rocksteady is many years away from releasing their next game, likely going to be on PlayStation 6. Just an absolute mess. It's interesting that they couldn't even harness the strength of Hogwarts Legacy. It's so obvious that Hogwarts Legacy is fucking huge, dude. And like, how do you not have a fully prepared plan to go pursue as much expansion content as you can while you spool up the next game? Really drop ball, dude. I think Hogwarts Legacy is even bigger than they thought it was going to be. And it withstood, it was like, part of it was like, it was a culture war kind of icon. So I think some people bought it there, but I think just a lot of Harry Potter fans out there. And it's like, damn, dude, what are you guys doing? So not a huge fan of the game. I played it for 10 hours or whatever, but just surprised. Just wanted to throw that out there. I don't know if you guys have anything you want to add.
I have a radical idea. Maybe if you don't feel like there's enough content to release it at a certain price, just make the price what you feel is appropriate for the content you've already fucking made.
Indeed.
Thoughts?
Indeed. Yeah, no, it's very,
it
is radical.
Am I crazy here? That it's like, they did all this work and they're releasing Hogwarts Legacy. They're doing a Switch 2 update. So the game's going to have a little bit of a pop when that comes out. It's like, there are millions of people that bought this game that if you just were like, hey, we did this DLC pack, this DLC thing, $10, $20, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why waste it?
I don't know. There's something deeper here. I don't know. Like, I don't buy that, especially from a corporate, like, we didn't think that there was enough worth charging for. It's like, what are you talking about? It's your whole job is to overcharge for. Like, I think there's something more here.
Yeah, it could be.
Like they charge for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Then they decided not to when they put on PS Plus and Epic Game Store.
Yeah, so like, there's something off about this. Just the idea of like, it comes across as trying to be the good guy. You know, where it's just like we actually didn't think it was valuable enough to sell, or like we actually didn't feel like there was enough to charge you for it. It's like, as opposed to what?
Yeah,
what
I think it's
your entire history. Like, are you kidding?
Yeah, it does seem like a bit of it's interesting. It's an interesting perspective you're sharing. Like, if that's true, it kind of comes off like a controlled leak in some sense, as opposed to saying, this is Warner we're talking about, right? So the reality is that, and I know this is getting so trite to say this, it's like they're going to write it down. Like, and Jesus Christ, it took years. People finally extracted that Wile E. Coyote movie from them, you know, because they were just like, nah, we're just going to write it off. Thanks though for the offer. So I think that is probably the case, that there's like, this is not worth it. Just work on the next game. But it's crazy. I really feel like they dropped the ball with Hogwarts Legacy in some sense, just because that's one of the greatest selling games of the generation, easily, like not even close.
Yeah.
So definitely top 5. I mean, up there, non-annualized game. So
yeah, like you mean like not counting like sports stuff and
right,
things
exactly,
like
or like Call of Duty or something like that. But like Hogwarts Legacy is like 20+ million is a pretty crazy amount of copies, and they just even. This is what we were saying about Ubisoft and Assassin's Creed. It's like the company is so badly run and is so bloated that nothing can save them. And that's a great example of this too. Like, you sold how many copies of think about that year. Like, they own the Lego studios and released Lego Star Wars, which was probably the other best-selling game of that year. And they couldn't make it work. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
That's just fumbling the plates, like not knowing what you're doing. And it's very frustrating. If I worked over there, man, I'd be very frustrated, and now they're just totally beholden to like certain IP, and they just have to dig themselves out over many years to ever get the idea that they would invest in something like Fear or something like that ever again is off the table. All right. Where are we here? Oh yeah. Okay. So some sales numbers. Monster Hunter Wilds from Capcom, not Crapcom anymore. 10 million copies sold in 1 month. Pretty incredible. Dustin, you're one of those copies. Have you been messing around with it anymore? Is it people must be playing it, right? I mean, it obviously this is an incredible sales success, but I don't feel like I see very much about it in my own little circles, my own travels around the internet. Seems like people are kind of done with it. Hit it and quit it, as they might say.
Yeah, there's definitely Monster Hunter people that are still playing and grinding for different armor sets and things like that. But I've put it on hold for now because I got to the end of the game. I did some end game grinding, not anywhere near as much as other people, but at this point now, it's a game for me that they're going to continue to release new monsters, new hunts, new things to do. So just a game that I can come back to every few months with new content. But yeah, 10 million in a month is crazy. Yeah, I was thinking about this game because, not to bring up Nintendo again, but a lot of arguments like people aren't buying games as much anymore and they can't withstand the price. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? People are still buying lots of games at high prices.
There are fewer bigger winners.
Right.
A game, dude, the best-selling PS1 game is like 10 or 11 million units. Yeah. They did that in a month. So obviously everything is a function of a few products doing very well. As opposed, Jaffe talks about it. It's like a lot of games on PS1 sold really well. But like it was like 500,000 copies, 1 million copies, 1.5 million copies. Now that's considered like devastating. And you need to sell this many copies and there's just so many games to go around. I think that there's got to be a mathematical equation of like the total gaming population has a tolerance of X amount of games to buy a year, and each release erodes that Y amount. So Grand Theft Auto 6 is a great example. Like that's just going to take a whole piece of that big slice of that pie right off the bat. And so Monster Hunter Wilds, I think, is a great success story, but it means a lot of other games aren't going to sell as well. That's just the nature of the opportunity cost, right. I guess. The other thing I wanted to bring up here, because I'm thinking about a side quest episode about this. I won't have time to do it anytime soon, but about announcing how many players you've reached. And obviously we were criticizing Assassin's Creed for this. Death Stranding just did the same thing. They announced that they had 20 million players. Now, people have been pointing out, interestingly, I don't want to say rightfully so, but interestingly, that Death Stranding was in like the 5 million units sold range on PS4, PS5, and PC. And this indicates that, let's assume they sold a couple more million copies. It's like 2/3 of your players didn't pay for your game. And why is it that big of a deal to have? It's cool to have that many players, but it's not really a meaningful metric. And so so Death Stranding, 20 million players. Okay, cool. And we love that game. So it's not a big deal. I'm happy for their success. But then Atomfall from Rebellion, they announced that they have 1.5 million players. Now this is relevant. I bought the game, but this is relevant because it's on Game Pass.
Right.
And I'm like, so if it's on a subscription service, why does it matter how many people played it? I don't understand. That's not really a relevant statistic to me. I want to know sales figures. So it's interesting to be able to contrast the confidence of Capcom saying Monster Hunter Wilds 10 million sold, and then Atomfall from a small studio. I mean, I'm not, and I liked Atomfall. I beat it. But it's like 1.5 million players, and I'm like, yeah, this is not a useful metric. That might be useful for you internally, but I feel like it's missing the forest for the trees and deceiving. It's a form of deception about how a game's really performing, good or bad, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think the issue is it's like, I don't want to, lowest common denominator is not the right term. That's like too insulting. I just feel like a lot of these press releases, depending on who's making them, are for the person who's just casually paying attention. If that, who sees like, oh shit, Death Stranding, 20 million players, that in their mind translates to sold, I think, for your average person. And so they're thinking like, damn, that's a big game. And even if it isn't sold, it's like, what does it matter to them? What does it matter to your average person, how much a game sells? They just kind of feel like, oh, that's popular. A lot of people are playing it. Maybe I'll go try it out or whatever. It's a similar thing with like, Atomfall is like a smaller kind of studio. They're just like, hey, they're going to use the bigger number if they can. I think it's all about the bigger number. It's just like the amount sold is always going to be less than players if subscriptions are in there. And so, yeah, why wouldn't you, I guess, in some sense, be like, yeah, we got 20 million players on Death Stranding. I get it's not useful to us as people who like extract this and like talk about it in like a deep way for like data analytics, but the overwhelming majority of people are just not in that space at all.
Yeah, sure. It's a PR hit. Yeah,
it's a PR hit. Yeah. It's a bump. It's like when Halo Infinite had like 20 million players like the first day, and it's just like, that's great. Granted, it's free to play, so like, although they had the campaign that you had to pay, I don't know what the fuck.
Right, but even the free to play stuff is like that to me is like, it's like, all right, so it's free to play. Like, who gives a shit if how many people are playing? Like, there's just it's free.
Yeah. You can extrapolate some level of like, damn, 20 million people playing this free-to-play game that's like you can't extract like an exact number or like even like a ballpark, but you can assume that's like, damn, that's a lot of microtransactions, man. Like they're making a boatload of even if like a fraction of those people are spending a lot of money, like that's pretty good. But Death Stranding isn't one of those games. Also, what subscription service is Death Stranding on? Is it PS? Was it PS? Like, what is it?
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, I just closed the window.
Because I know it's not on Game Pass.
No.
So what the fuck is it on?
Let me see. It was
must be
PlayStation, Xbox, Steam, Epic, iOS, and Amazon Luna, but it doesn't say anything about Game Pass.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck that even means then. Like, because I can't think of a subscription service that it would be on to even for players to not mean sold. You know what I mean? Like, unless it was on PS Plus and I'm not remembering. Or
Death Stranding was on PC Game Pass.
What?
Right. And it was also on Extra as of a year ago.
Okay,
I don't know if
I
it still is.
I see.
Oh yeah, PS Plus, of course. So anyway, do you have anything you want to add about this, Dustin, about the sales, the numbers, the number of players and all this? I don't mean to be like an old man yelling at clouds. I'm like, what is the use of this really? I know it's a PR hit, but I feel like I feel like these guys need to look at it. I think it's true with Assassin's Creed, to be honest with you. It's like, it looks a little weak that you're not saying how many copies you sold. If I'm being honest, it looks a little weak to me.
Yeah, there's definitely partially that. I think that it's weird because it's not exactly measurable, but it is if you are an investor or something for one of these companies and you're reading headlines or want to hear like, oh, there's this many people that are engaging with the product. There's interest in the product. I guess that does look good, but it's, as you guys were saying, that it's not like it doesn't have substance to it necessarily.
I'm looking like for some other more recent numbers to see. I can't really find too much other stuff as far as others that have either announced sales or player numbers. But anyway, I don't know. It's just something to talk about on a slow week, I guess. A few more things of good news. This comes from Automaton Media, who we've been citing more and more on the show. They write, Onimusha Way of the Sword confirms linear progression, about 20 hours of playtime, and enough bloodshed for an 18+ rating. So it says, quote, in a recent interview with Famitsu, Capcom revealed new details about Onimusha Way of the Sword, the Onimusha franchise's first new mainline entry in 20 years. Director Satoru Nahai and producer Akihito Kadowaki, that totally mispronounced that, confirmed that this new Onimusha will stick to the series' roots with linear story and stage progression rather than opting for an open world approach. They gave a rough estimate of about 20 hours to clear the game, while confirming that the game will include not only action, but some gameplay elements that will force players to use their heads, although they do not clarify if this will expand upon previous entries' puzzles. Yeah, the game was already puzzle-oriented. I thought this was just great news. Just wanted to share that. I'm so looking forward to Onimusha Way of the Sword. I am such a big old-school Onimusha fan. I love those games. And to hear that they are not dicking around is so nice. And it seems like people are starting to finally get it. Onimusha is not an open-world game. It is a linear game, and I think 20 hours is even pretty long. I mean, that would make it the longest Onimusha game by far. So, of the 4 of them that exist right now. So, just wanted to throw this out there. I was especially thinking of you, Chris, when I looked at this story, just because I know you and I are, and Dustin is too. Like, I love open world games. I love games that are non-linear, but I feel like there's a lost love for the linear catered experience, and this is exactly what it's going to be, which is what Onimusha always was.
Yeah,
very exciting. Looking forward to playing this. But yes, the Sarah rating, it's weird that it already has a rating because it's not coming out until 2026 and it'll be on PlayStation 5. But Onimusha 2 is being re-released far sooner. I want to say in May or June or something like that, which will be awesome.
Yeah, I'm in for that.
Oh yeah, me too. I'm going to go back, I think, right before that comes out. I'm going to go back because I played Onimusha 1 when it was ported, but go back and platinum it because the platinum is it's not that time consuming because the game's not that long. I think the hardest part will probably be like that optional horde mode style thing that they have.
Yeah.
That shit's pretty tough, as I recall. All right, just a couple other things that I wanted to discuss. Final Fantasy IX's 25th anniversary is now, this year. And there's a website in Japan up for it at jp.finalfantasy.com/FFIX25th. I just wanted to point this out because I think this is a resource that we're going to have to start paying attention to. Of course, June 7th specifically is Final Fantasy IX's 25th anniversary in Japan. And they are celebrating it with some books and music and some clothing and things of this nature. But the mysterious thing that's missing is the game. you have to assume that Final Fantasy IX Remake, which again was leaked all the way back in 2021 via the NVIDIA GeForce leak, which has been completely reliable. They were obviously shooting for this year, I assume. I wonder if they're going to make it. And it seems awfully quiet, but maybe you just keep your cards close to your chest and let them finish. But I would love to see a surprise Final Fantasy IX remake of some sort. Again, not to the extent that Final Fantasy VII was remade, but something that celebrates this really great game. So it's something to keep an eye on. Do you have any thoughts about this, Dustin? And a lot of people are talking about this. There's a little bit of consternation in some RPG circles about the lack of respect Final Fantasy IX is getting this year.
I feel like the intention was to have it ready and maybe even announced and released around this time. But since it's been so long, we've been constantly asking, like, where's this game? This is the one left from the NVIDIA leak that hasn't happened yet. And it reads to me like there was some kind of development trouble. As you remember from Final Fantasy VII Remake, that game needed to be taken in-house because CyberConnect was originally on it for some reason, which is just crazy. I don't know if it's something to that extent, but it reads to me like there's something happening behind the scenes. They're not going to hit this, but they didn't want to not acknowledge the anniversary. They've already got plenty of merchandise for sale based around Final Fantasy IX. So they're happy to sell you that. They're going to acknowledge it. It would be nice at the very least if it gets announced sometime this year. But and even happen, I guess still to some degree, there's a possibility that this game did end up getting canceled at some point. But
yeah,
I think it's still happening.
Yeah, I think so too.
You have to wait a little longer.
I think so too. Finally, this just came up because they released a new game or a new story trailer for it. But the Build a Rocket Boy developed an IO published game, MindsEye, which is coming out June 10th. This is from director Leslie Benzies, who's best known as the producer of basically all the Grand Theft Auto games and some other stuff at Rockstar as well. Very important person. He left after Grand Theft Auto 5 launched. And I just wanted to, I was curious if you guys were into this at all. I think this game looks fucking dope. And it's described here. I was on Wikipedia just looking at it. It's described as a linear action adventure game played from a third person, though it has a faux-pen world, like faux pen world, similar to Mafia Definitive Edition. I think that sounds fucking great as far as the setting, because that does feel natural, even though you're only going from place to place. There's nothing really going on. I think it's a lot of fun. And I feel like people are kind of shitting on this game or not really paying attention to it. I think it looks dope. It looks like a Grand Theft Auto game. But like something a little more tailored, I guess, maybe not unlike The Getaway in some sense, although a lot prettier. Are you guys into this? Are you going to play it?
I want to see more. When I watched this story trailer, and of course we've talked about the other trailers as well, and I heard Maddie say this on Duke when I was editing it last night, and I agree with him that it just feels a little generic. It's like, oh, the robots are gaining sentience.
Right.
Oh, they're attacking.
What does it mean to be human?
It just, from a story and particularly the visual perspective too, there's, for my taste, other than the graphics are beautiful, well rendered, from an art style perspective, this game has nothing that really draws me to it at all. But the gameplay is great, the story's great, then hell yeah, I'm definitely in to check it out despite that. So I need to see more. I need to know what the game is. One that I'll probably wait to see what reviews say about it.
Yeah, I'm all over this. I'm definitely gonna get this. I think it looks great. I like the style because it reminds me a little bit of it just feels like it belongs in the real world. It's not fantastical. It looks like California to me. I mean, I don't know if that's what it is.
Right. Yeah.
But with robots in it and shit. Not unlike Detroit in some sense, where I felt that game was relatively grounded too, although a very different kind of game. But the studio's in Scotland, and it's within the confines of that game Everywhere that they're working on. It's like in that universe, which is like an MMO, I think. Right. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking at the comments, and I agree. I get Mafia vibes from it too. Like that's totally. I'm into. I want single player games like this, so that don't have a multiplayer component. It's just like, no, this is like what Grand Theft Auto was. And I'm like, cool, I dig that. So I'm going to go out and support Leslie when the time comes, June 10th. But yeah, I don't know. Chris, are you going to play MindsEye?
I'm interested. I'm kind of in the middle. Like I'm kind of in agreement with both of what you guys are saying. Like I do think it looks a little generic. I think there's like I don't know if uncanniness is the right word to it, but like there's something good going on in the art style that I'm not exactly on.
Yeah,
board
the people
with.
are a little off. I agree. Like there's something about them that's a little plasticine or something. I don't know what it is. Yeah,
like I don't know. It kind of. I don't know. It's like they look like Snapchat filters or something. Like there's something going on. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but I do also kind of miss this. These open world games that weren't Grand Theft Auto that used to be a little bit more like Sleeping Dogs and Mafia is a good example. And so to get another one that, you know, it isn't a Rockstar game, it's just kind of another studio trying their hand at something like this. I think that's cool. And I think that's a worthy endeavor to kind of fill that space. Curious timing for a game like this, I guess, given it's like the 1 year, a millennia that a Grand Theft Auto game is going to come out. But yeah, I'm intrigued. I think I would want to have a pretty good idea of how this thing plays, or like what the structure is going to be like. And if I see anywhere that like this is an 80-hour game, I gotta.
No,
say
I doubt it. I doubt it.
Yeah, like right. I doubt it too. But I'm just saying, like give me like an Onimusha type thing, and I'm all in. Why not?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm kind of in the middle on it.
Yeah, it looks
intriguing.
It looks a little bit of a popcorn flick or something. It's
exactly.
Yeah, something that I'll be interested to check out. Yeah, MindsEye, June 10th. Just wanted to touch base with that because people do seem skeptical of it, and I guess I get it. We'll see soon enough. All right, let's get into what we're playing. Did I hear him?
Now it's a tick for me, unfortunately.
Yeah. Let's get into what we're playing. I'll start real quick because I'm not going to belabor it. I've talked about these games last week, and I talked about them on Summon Sign.
Yeah.
I played and beat Atomfall. I did it in about 15 hours. I like a lot of it. I think it's good. I think it's really interesting. It's mysterious. It's intriguing. I think it's really not very fine mechanically. I think there are some problems to it. I think it's inconsistent in its attempt to not tell you anything and the choices it makes in that regard. However, I talked about this a great deal on Summon Sign, and we're going to get into a review discussion and spoiler cast on this next week with Maddie, who also beat it. And so I'll get much deeper into the weeds in the game itself because it's so story driven and so experiential that I don't really want to spoil it if people are going to play it. And then I'm still playing The Last of Us Part 2, No Return. I've talked about that a lot too. So I really have nothing new to say of any interest right now. So let's move on. Chris, I know you're still playing the same games we talked about on Summon Sign, Atomfall and Assassin's Creed Shadows. Do you want to speak on them here?
Yeah, I mean, I do think I've gotten a little bit further in Atomfall, and I've seen a little bit more of the map. I've seen a little bit more of, you know, the crafting system, getting my hands more into the deeper systems there, tracking down leads, and it's all very satisfying, but I'm still like, yeah, like we kind of talked a lot about it on Summon Sign, so I would recommend going to watch that episode that we both did together. We get really, really in depth on pretty much everything.
You're welcome to join Maddie and I if you finish it in time, which would be it would be no problem between now and then, but it's up to you.
That would be great. It's like a wedding weekend though. So like, I forget it. I doubt it.
I didn't mean to not include you is what I was wanting.
No, you're fine. So I like it a great deal. I'm really into I like the tone of it. I like the vibe of it. I like what you're doing. I like that I feel really, really disincentivized to be combative. Like I've been sneaking around. Like I don't think I've really, outside of my first like accidental altercation with an enemy, I haven't killed anybody. Like I've been going through it completely kind of silently and slinking around. I'm scared to get into combat because I feel like I never run into one enemy. It's always like 12 guys whistling in the fucking woods, and it's like horrifying. I don't want to start any trouble, but I'm really into it. There's like some mechanical things that I think are kind of annoying. Like if I'm remembering correctly, you use your D-pad kind of to swap between your different like hotkeys,
mm-hmm.
And then there's also you have certain tools that are mapped to the face buttons. And when you open a tool, it brings up the radial for the for the D-pad, and it kind of stays a little bit longer. It's really like nitpicky kind of things, like where it's just like, I wish that was like a little bit smaller or a little bit more out of the way, or a little bit more, elegantly placed within the UI. It's really small kind of things right now. I think what you said earlier about it being like not mechanically fine is probably the best way to go about it. Like it's not a fucking train wreck by any means at all, but there's definitely some friction, I guess I would say, between some of the design elements. But I'm enjoying it a great deal. I'm still pretty early. And Assassin's Creed Shadows, I've gotten a little bit further in. I'm noticing that the pacing is so disjointed in this game, and I think it's because of the dual protagonists. Like I don't know, man. It's weird. Like I'll be tutorialized on something that I've done been doing for like 15 hours. Like what is going on? And they lock the experience points behind a very specific currency that you have to go do specific things to unlock, which in theory is like a better alternative to grinding for a long time. In theory, but it just kind of makes it so you're still spending the same amount of time that you would spend grinding, but in this game it's more like they set you on a path to do it as opposed to letting you do it in whatever way you want. And that's actually kind of, I don't know, I feel like it's a bit of a step back. Like I think I would rather be able to increase my equipment and upgrade my character based on doing the things that I want to do. Mm-hmm. Open world. Like if I want to, like I want this to be a stealth game entirely, primarily. And so I'm going out like, stealthing these different outposts, and then I'm realizing that I'm not really getting much out of it because you can only progress based on getting these specific points that are attached to specific missions and specific activities that are, by the way, very, very far away from each other, which I think is kind of intentional to just get you spending time in the world. But I don't know. There's like cracks there for sure. It's still good. It's still an enjoyable experience, but it's I'm definitely seeing the cracks here in a game that I feel like was deeply restructured. Like it feels like they didn't have. It feels like this was originally a very, very linear story, and then they were like, we need to start this a little bit later in the story to get people like really into it. And then it feels like, man, we made all that earlier stuff, so let's like put it behind these extra, like let's do a meditation thing, and then you get to play that thing that we almost cut, but we couldn't cut because we spent too much money making it, and we can't justify that. Right. It feels like I no way of saying whether or not that's literally true, but it's the sensation that I get when I'm playing it.
I get that.
But yeah, that's really all I have to say about it. That's anything new.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if you beat it, and if you do, which ending you go for. Because I was basically able to kind of unlock two paths of this. There I don't even want to say how many. There are quite a few ways to get out of the game.
Are you talking about Adamfall, right?
Yeah. Sorry, yeah. I'm intrigued by if you're able to beat that specific game and join us. Again, you probably won't be able to, just because I feel like no one's.
When are you guys recording it?
Monday, so it's not going to really work for your wedding.
Yeah.
But just because you are, like no one seems to really be like it was talked about for a minute, and then no one really seems to be talking about it anymore. It was on Game Pass, and I think people were excited about it, but I think it's intimidating a lot of people. Sorry, by the way, I got a text about my suit. That it's going to be my new suit's going to be ready soon. So sorry, I was reading that. I was distracted.
No, you're good.
And responding to him. All right, Dustin. Oh my God, stop texting me. Sorry, I got to get rid of this watch. I want this watch just for my
the fitness stuff.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, go in your watch app. Just turn all the notifications off.
It's like constantly. It's actually what woke me up today is because my accountant was emailing me a bunch of stuff. So like from like a system. So it sent me like 5 emails. My thing just kept buzzing. And I'm like, all right, fine. Fucking Christ. Like I'll wake up. I got to get this thing off my wrist. It's distracting the fuck out of me. I'm sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Okay. Dustin, Schedule 1. Now, when I was on with Jaffe for Moriarty Cross Jaffe, which goes live tomorrow from when this is publishing on Patreon, Schedule 1 was a game he actually brought up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'm interested to see what you think of it.
Yeah. So Schedule 1 is an early access PC game. Don't get it confused with Schedule 1 Syndicate, the PlayStation Store clone.
I
think it's been removed. because when I go on the PlayStation Store website and click on it, it doesn't show up. But PlayStation, again, know you're listening. Why is it even showing up? Who's letting it in? Who's the watchman here? Anyway.
New. By the way, new games on PSN profiles just uploaded. Hole Digging Master and the Jumping Cheese Maze.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. Oh.
Spoiler cast next week.
Yeah, for Jumping Cheese Maze. That'd
be awesome. That would be funny to do on an April 1st if April 1st fell on a Saturday one year. And we just do like a 2.5 hour, like My Name is Mayo or something.
Yeah, spoiler cast.
Yeah. So yeah, Schedule 1 is an early access PC game. You guys remember me talking about TCG Card Shop Sim and, of course, Arcade Paradise more recently. And this is another management game. I don't know. There's something about them right now that I'm really into. But the spin on this one is that this is a game about making and selling drugs. So we've been playing it co-op. So it's me and Ben, Brandon, and our friend Justin. Got a little drug den going on.
Nice.
And when you start this game, it's cool because you're just in like a shitty hotel room. You get a couple growers, start growing your OG Kush. And you got to like pick up the seeds from the special seed guy who meets you somewhere. You do a dead drop. And so you got to harvest the buds. You got to pack them up.
You got to describe the graphics though, because it's the graphics that make it all so funny to me. I was looking at it. It's very funny.
The graphics are, I mean, they're kind of cartoony, but not at the same time.
I saw like this gunplay part where I was like, this is so funny.
Yeah.
Whether it's meant to be or if it's just literally mega low budget and they didn't expect anyone was going to care about it. But it's just got like a clean but very old polygonal thing going, I guess, is what you would call it.
Yeah. Dude, and the character creator of this game is fucking awesome. In fact, I took a screenshot, my friend Brandon. I'll put a comparison of him in real life versus character in game. It's amazing. He looks like cracked out Brandon in it. So on my character, we decided we were all going to be shirtless, no shoes, like eyes slightly dilated. Because we're always smoking our own product just to try it out. You got to.
Yeah. So this is fun. I'm looking at all. It's so funny, man. This is a great idea. I love this.
So yeah, you eventually make your product and then you got to go out, you got to find your people, like you got to offer some samples, people get interested, start getting a little network of your money. There are cops out and about that there's a curfew. So that's one of the most likely times where they can get you and they can search you. But there's a mechanic where there's like an arrow over your inventory bar. And if you hold that item when the arrow's above, you can conceal it. So you got to be careful, like space out where your weed is and stuff like that, in order to not get caught by the police. Eventually you get dealers. And so you've got to provide product to the dealers. They have their own client list that you got to send them out. And the operation kind of just continues growing at that point where we're at the point now where we have 4 locations. 3 of them, we have hired staff to manage. So one of them 2 of them are all weed. One of them, new product on the market, we got meth. So we've got meth that we're trying to introduce to people. Another interesting mechanic is that you can modify the weed with mixers. So you can add some like Red Bull in your weed and it makes a different type of strain that has different qualities to it. And so different customers want different types of things. And so there's more, I guess, innocent things you mix in like Red Bull or Coca-Cola, not cocaine yet. You mix those in, you get some properties, but then you can start mixing like gasoline, Viagra. For some reason, horse semen is an ingredient that you can mix into the weed, which is great. And dude, it's funny because when I was mentioning you could smoke your own product. So some of these effects apply to you where one of them, Brandon smoked it and then his head just slowly started getting larger. Just ever so slightly. Some of them have like energizing effects and they'll make your character run faster. So there's like different buffs as well. And there's just a lot of really fun little things in the game too, where there's a casino. You can go bet all your money that you earned if you want. You got to have laundering operations. So we have a laundromat, we have a post office, we have a car wash that we can launder our money in because you can only deposit so much money in the traditional means. So you got to have that operation going as well. And I'm very excited because we just unlocked someone who's going to help us start our cocaine operation. So hopefully we can get some more profits from that as well. But as silly as this game sounds, the sense of progression, all the different management aspects of it are really fun. It is in early access, so it does have some bugs, but surprisingly, pretty feature rich, I would say, overall right now, with the different types of drugs you can make, the different people you sell to, the dealers, all these different elements coming together. It's a really awesome sim game, and the silly elements to it just make it even better. So Schedule 1, check it out on PC, and this game is blowing up big time. So I'm assuming once they finish it, they said early access period, I think for like 2 years. So it might be a while till there's a console version of this game.
Yeah, I was just looking it up and trying to find information on that. Insider Gaming had information saying that on their Discord, the question comes up a lot, and the answer is no, that they're like not going to make a console version. Probably not until, like you're saying, like the game is fully out. I think there's only a few of them, like you said, and it has 50,000 reviews almost on Steam, overwhelmingly positive. Just came out 10 days ago or so. So it looks really fun. I mean, it's silly, but I loved that game just that you played on the calculator, or like Drug Wars or whatever. You know what I'm talking about? Like it was a
Oh, I don't know.
Are you guys too young for that? Like on TI or whatever it was called, the TI-83 or whatever?
TI-83, yeah.
There was a game that was like very common that people had in my generation. I think it was just called Drug Wars, and it was just a text-based game about selling drugs. And it was really cool. Like it was just a mathematical thing. It wasn't very deep or anything, but that was like the big thing. Everyone was like, "Oh, do you have Drug Wars on your calculator?" And it's cool that they're doing something like that. That I wonder if this kind of stuff is allowed. I would assume it is. Like, why wouldn't it be? Like, I don't know. Obviously, Steam is very libertarian and laissez-faire, but I wonder on the platforms, it's like this is a glorification of drugs, or I must have an ESRB rating, I guess.
If it's in early access, I don't know if it needs to.
I think this would inherently just be rated M, though, right?
Yeah. I'm not seeing an ESRB rating on the Steam page.
Yeah, like, so I don't know how that all works. But then again, it's like there are movies about drugs, violence, sex that are rated R. So yeah, but I'm just curious if there will be any sort of fidgetiness about it, because if you just, it's very similar to Grand Theft Auto. If you just take it in the spirit that it's in, it's fun and it's silly. Yeah, I think it looks great, and I think the art style is sublime. Like I'm not even kidding. Like I think it's fucking perfect. It's fucking goofy. You know,
it's the exact right art style for what the game is. Because if it was realistic, it would feel kind of like try hard, or like there would be something about it that would be really wrong.
There's a trailer on Steam where it's like there's a video at 34 seconds of this particular video. It's the Schedule 1 gameplay trailer. There's like a guy, it looks like almost like a tall South Park character with like a pot on his head, and he's in his underwear, and he just runs at the player character, and the guy just stabs him in the face and then hits him over the head with a hammer. It's like, or a bat. It's so funny, dude. It's very fun. The faces are very funny.
I just sent you guys, it's in the Sacred Symbols channel in our staff chat, the picture of Brandon that I mentioned earlier, which you guys have seen him before.
Yeah, let me see him.
That's awesome. Why does he look so tired?
Yeah, dude, and it's great. You can get tattoos in the game, and we were really early on, and so like Ben and I are like working really hard trying to get our operation going, and Brandon, we don't know what he's doing. He comes back in, he's got this super shitty eagle tattooed on his chest. We're like, dude, how'd you get that? He's like, oh, you just got to go to the tattoo shop. I'm like, oh, interesting. And because it's early in the game and we're tight on money, Ben's like, wait, I thought we had like $300 more. Brandon's like, oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. So yeah, Brandon was just out spending our fucking money on his eagle chest tattoo. I got a tattoo awesome. Now. There's like a mini game in the game of an egg jump, but for some reason the egg has balls. Just like an egg that has balls. So I got the egg with the balls tattooed on my chest.
It's ridiculous.
The other thing, I forgot to write this on the doc here for you guys, but I have been checking out Hitman on PlayStation VR as well. Yeah. $10 fee to unlock the VR version, which I feel like is pretty fair.
Yeah.
I played it for about an hour the first time, and I was doing the tutorials, even though I know how to play Hitman. I don't know how to play it in VR. And by the end of that hour, I was feeling a little ill because I haven't been playing a lot of VR recently, so I don't have my sea legs anymore quite the same. And it's really well done. I'm amazed at how good it looks visually. It looks really comparable to the PS5 game, very sharp. It obviously benefits, like all games benefit from the immersion of VR, but Hitman is one of those games that can be really finicky about like if a character sees you or you do something slightly wrong. So I don't know if that lends as well to VR. In fact, when I was playing it, I was like, man, it's cool to be walking around like the Paris level with the runway. I'm like, man, this is so cool. I don't know if I enjoy playing this game like this though. It's neat, and I'm sure some people would be super into it. I played again, and within a much quicker period of time, I started to feel sick. But I already kind of was feeling at that point, so it wasn't a good idea to play at all. I'm going to return to it because there's something about it. It's really intriguing to me because I love Hitman. I love VR, so it makes sense. But at the very least, for those of you interested, it's a very, in my opinion, seems like a very high quality port, unlike the PSVR 1 port that was absolutely terrible. So check it out. $10 if you have Hitman already.
Cool. Sounds great.
Oh, yeah.
If you're not getting sick.
Yeah.
I was looking up on ESRB just for out of curiosity if Schedule 1's on there. It isn't. Then I just couldn't find any game with the word schedule in it at all. I guess that would make some sort of sense. But then I looked for Hebroxia, and Hebroxia 1's on there, but not Hebroxia 2. We definitely have ESRB ratings for both. So I don't know if it's a full search engine or what's going on with that.
Weird.
Okay. That's what we're playing. Again, as far as Adam Fall is concerned, we will do a spoiler cast review discussion for that imminently. I don't know if enough people have played Assassin's Creed Shadows to do anything for that. It would be nice to do something for it. But I don't know if there's any interest. I'll have to kind of poke around.
Maddie and Cog were playing it. I don't know if they finished it though. I don't know if Maddie was playing it and then he's done. I know Locke started it and he's out.
Yeah. Well, that's I mean, I would want people to have beaten it if possible.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's really no big news this week except for one thing that I saw. It's more of a nerdy thing. It comes from thegamebusiness.com, which is the new Jeff Keighley funded operation that seems to be running on Substack. So that's good because Substack's an awesome platform. If we're never going to leave Patreon. I love Patreon. I'm deeply loyal to Patreon, but I have a thought in my mind, like what if Patreon went away or we couldn't use it anymore because it wasn't possible? Substack would be where I think we would go. Do you guys use it at all? Do you read anyone or listen to anyone there? It's a great website.
Nope.
No.
It's very modular and interesting. And it's what's cool about it is it incorporates. It's not unlike Patreon. It in that it incorporates like the written word and audio and video and all that kind of stuff. But it's much bigger in like political, philosophical, academic spheres, as opposed to Patreon is kind of the standard in like entertainment,
Right,
and so on. So anyway, so this was written by Christopher Dring, Christopher Dring called my completely accurate reporting on Concord laughingstock of the industry, which I didn't really appreciate. I never talked to this person before, so I'm not much of a fan of his for saying that and throwing venom my way for something that's not wrong. But he did write here how 6 million Call of Duty players sent Helldivers 2 into a tailspin. I highly recommend this story. It's basically it's basically bringing you an interview that he conducted. And there's a video for it as well. And I don't know if I think the video runs in their own,
it's a proprietary thing.
Yeah. Cause I was trying to like find like where it would be. But I think it's just it's just a short proprietary video. So that's unfortunate. But they basically, anyway, spoke to someone at Arrowhead. It's Shams Georgiani, who is the new CEO of Arrowhead. He took over the mantle after Helldivers 2 came out. And I just thought I would bring this story up because I highly recommend people reading it. Again, it's called How 6 Million Call of Duty Players Sent Helldivers 2 into a Tailspin. It's from The Game Business. And I shared it with the guys as well and asked them to read it to see if there was anything interesting that they wanted to pull out of it. And there are a lot of interesting things about turning the game around, and they talk about the game getting a 19% user score on Steam, and that they were able to turn it around back to like 94% or something. And they were really inspired by No Man's Sky and Hello Games and their ability to really turn that game around. Although I think Helldivers was in a much better situation than No Man's Sky was in the beginning. So it's, no offense, much more impressive what Hello Games did.
Yeah.
But I was curious if anything stood out to you, either of you, in this article that you wanted to dig deeper into. If not, we can move on from it. But Dustin, speak to me about this piece from thegamebusiness.com.
Yeah, it's a few things. I found it interesting how he talked about how they were designing the game for a niche market that would enjoy a brutally difficult, hilarious game like Helldivers. But then I can't find it in the exact article. Call of Duty. He mentions like all these. Then we have 6 million Call of Duty players who bought the game that are interested in different things than what we set out to do. So a lot of the article is talking about how like they wanted to adapt to the market that had bought the game, at the same time staying true to who they were and are as a studio. So was kind of interesting that they, the success for a lot of companies, I think, would be like, okay, well, we're pivoting to do exactly this. And you can see that they definitely did have to change somewhat, because a lot of their updates are what drove people away from the game, as far as making it brutally hard to the point of not being fun and turning some people away from it. The other thing that I thought was really interesting was there's a section about how the industry, when you get a success like this very quickly, the gut impulse is to grow and hire as fast as possible to continue the growth, and how that's not necessarily sustainable, and is what has created a lot of these instances of mass layoffs, is the gut reaction to just hire, keep pushing. And so he talks about being wanting to be a good role model for sustainable growth for the industry. And I think that's cool, because we talked about so many times on the show how someone at the top makes a dumb decision and hires a bunch of people based off of success that is maybe earned and valid, but not necessarily forever. And so having the respect for your employees, where certainly I'm positive, I think they mentioned in the article that they have grown since and have hired more people, but it wasn't necessarily the hiring frenzy that you would have seen in many other instances of a game like this having success.
Yeah, he notes in the conversation, he says, quote, he's talking about Genshin Impact specifically, and he says, quote, "They have 1,500 developers working on stuff, but it's still not enough for the players. Despite us dropping really cool updates, new factions, and weapons, we just can't keep up. Nobody can." So at some point, it might not even be worth really trying. I thought it was notable too. He says at some point, quote, "We were the same people we were 12 months ago, but suddenly we're in a different league. We were playing in like Division 3 and now we're in Champions League, and it takes time for us to figure that out. We're being scrutinized against a different standard. We need to rise to the occasion, but there's a bit of lagging effect to that as we catch up," end quote. So that they're just largely unprepared, which I think makes sense. The way Sony was treating Helldivers before it came out indicated to me that they didn't truly believe in it. But it turned out great. I'm not to say it was going to die or fail like Concord did. I don't think that was the case either. Like the original Helldivers is still played by tens of thousands of people a week, which is really interesting. That game's 10 years old. So Helldivers 2 would have found its audience, and it's a great game, but I don't think anyone anticipated it was going to be like this. Did anything else stick out to you, Chris, that you wanted to bring up before we move on?
I don't know. I guess it's nice to know that they've got their finger on the pulse, at least in the sense of like understanding what went wrong, because I do feel like oftentimes you'll hear, maybe not oftentimes, but I've heard many times when something doesn't work out, or a project doesn't pan out, or a game fails, or a film fails, like there's always like some lip service that is paid to it, where they're just like, oh, these are the reasons, and a lot of the times those reasons are like just really incorrect. Or just like, or they don't seem to have a good understanding of what really happened, or why this thing didn't catch fire the way it was supposed to, or, and it seems like, when they said, when they said that, it says here that we got away from the core fantasy of Helldivers. It literally says on the box, "Kill monsters with overpowered weapons." And in our strive to find balance, we ended up balancing the game in a way where the core fantasy died. That's like a really, that's so much more accurate of an admission or like an understanding of why any game that I've seen that has admitted to struggling, like that's so accurate. It's crazy. Like it struck me as uniquely accurate in the realm of like, you know, public PR for, you know, struggled projects. It's just like, oh, you know, there was something, I can't remember a game recently where, or in the last couple of months where there was like a story where it's just like, oh, it was the engine. Oh, like Halo Infinite is a good example where it's just like, oh, it was the engine really. And it was just like, maybe, but I think it's like a million other things.
Right.
So like, it's nice to see that there's, you know, that there's people there that who are in a leading position that truly understand, at the very least, like what the slip up was, and can hopefully like, you know, accurately learn from that, and not, you know, learning the wrong lessons is very, very easy, I think, in this kind of space. So it's good.
I agree. Yeah, they got there in the end. I still think we said it at the beginning too, when Helldivers started kind of going off the reservation a little bit, where I was like, what are you doing? Why? I'm still curious, like why their instinct was to make some of the decisions they made. They do explain it a little bit, but I don't know that my first blush instinct of seeing a game so popular would be to tweak it like that. To me, I'm like,
yeah,
I think you're missing out on everything that makes the game special to people. You're fucking it up. But they did get there in the end, and they're lucky, because I think the game was too big and people were too invested in it. In some way, ironically, I think charging for the game saved it in that, because if they made the same choices and people were more fickle about their investments, I don't think that they would have recaptured the group of people, although the game is authentically great. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not. I loved it. I played it for 50 hours or something like that. It's a lot for me for a multiplayer game. It's a lot for me for almost any game, actually. I don't play a lot of games for 50 hours. So, yeah, there's so much more to be said, and I would love to get more and more into the weeds. Although I think that they have said more than, to your point, Chris, more than they really have had to. They've taken it on the chin in some sense.
Yeah,
but I think that that's a teetering edge where I think if you replayed that sequence 10 times, I don't think that there would have been a few times where it never came back.
Yeah, I would think most of it. I think they kind of lucked out. I think like they had like a maybe. I think I had like a 30% chance of like getting by, you know, and I think they did it, but like it's not guaranteed.
Yeah, they really almost fucked it up, but
yeah,
it's always at a razor's edge, man. It's the same spirit that made the game to begin with, so you can't hate on it too much.
Yeah,
I like in this they talk about how things are in a really bad spot, and there was nothing they could do to immediately fix things, because I think it's Sweden, right? They were going on a 3-month break.
Yeah, that's crazy to me.
That struck me as just like, man,
that's wild.
That's awesome.
I like that.
You think so? I think
line,
that's crazy. It's so dangerous.
Yeah,
evidently not.
The next line after they talk about how things are in a bad spot, they're going on break. It says, "That's when Herman called," and it's just a single line. That's when Herman called. It reminded me of that the FaceTime image of Colin. It's like Colin is calling you. Herman is calling you. And he was like very
with
serious.
With the glasses face. I love that. With the face, the glasses down over his nose. So good.
Yeah.
So good. Love it. All right. Well, there's no other news this week. Again, Nintendo dominated the news, reasonably so. Everyone wants to stay out of the way. I get it. I think things will be back to normal form next week, hopefully. There's all these rumors that Oblivion is going to come out. We've been talking about this for weeks, that it's going to come out imminently, but I don't know if I
don't know what the hell's going on with that at all at this point.
Well, because I saw one of the rumors was like, it's going to come out either this day or this day. And I'm like, I'm not trying to be a dickhead, but if it was coming out either of those days, it would have been locked in months ago. That's not the way it works. Like, you don't just choose a release date and then be like, yeah, I think we'll go this day. You have to like get permission to release on those days. I'm not saying that Bethesda doesn't get a lot of leeway and kind of gets to go where they want to go, but the idea that they still don't know when it's releasing can't be real. That's just not how it works. All right. Let's get into listener inquiries and get the hell out of here. Wrap this up. 6 questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, and ideas from the audience over on Patreon. Patreon.com/lastdaymedia. Look for the threads in the news feed for all the different shows. Respond to them. You've heard of some of your inquiries this week, but as I said, we had kind of a diluted pool of inquiries this week, comparable to what we usually get, because everyone wanted to talk about the same 2 Nintendo topics, and for some reason wrote 50 times each about them. So, what do you think of the price of the Switch 2? What do you think about the price of the Switch 2? What do you think about the $80 games? What do you think about the $80 games? What do you think about the price of the Switch 2? All right, well, fair enough. Here are some other inquiries. Dante B wrote in and said, "Good day, my loves. Colin, you so casually dropped that there was new ongoing discussions between Sacred Symbols and Sony PR this week on Summon Sign. You elaborated a little bit, but any more info you can share? Where did this unexpected olive branch come from? Huge news to move on from so quickly, or maybe I'm just overhyping it in my own mind. I think you're overhyping it a little bit, but I realized when I said it on the show, I'm like, oh, people are going to be curious about more information about that. And I don't want to be too specific about what we're talking about, but yeah, we made contact like through, it's so strange. It's like we're talking about like politics.
Aliens.
It's like through intermediaries. Like it was basically known that through intermediaries between Sony PR and me, that like we should talk. You know, like it's been years. And I went back and looked in my email as I was preparing to talk to them, and it was like early 2019 was the last time we had any communication with each other. So it's been years. Mm-hmm. And we left it on, you know, back in the day on I don't want to say acrimonious terms, but I was annoyed with them, and I'm sure that they were annoyed with me too. And so we had I talked to one of the PR people over there that I've known for many years. She's a really nice person. I mean, I really have no problem for the most part with personally with people there at all. It's like, you're doing a job. I'm not like, I've had the pleasure of knowing some of these people for many years, such that, although I haven't talked to them recently, such that you see the humanity in them. It's not like just company talking to company and whatever. So it was never like that. It was nice to catch up with this particular person who I've known since I was in my early 20s. And, you know, catching up personally, catching up professionally, and just kind of talking about some options and opportunities that we could take advantage of on Sacred Symbols. The thing is that, and I said this outright, is like, I don't want access to games. I don't want early access to games. I don't want codes. I don't want previews. I don't want to go to events. I don't want to do any of that. I don't want any of that for Sacred Symbols. I think we've built this podcast it's not a coincidence. I don't think that the podcast got way bigger. It got bigger over time, obviously, but it got way bigger when we stopped dealing with the publishers and developers, because I think it leads into a more reasonable cadence with the audience, where like we're playing things at the same time, talking about that things when they're most appropriate. The whole IGN syndrome back in the day was like, by the time a game came out, we were like, oh, we beat that 3 weeks ago. All of our guide content is done. We wrote everything. We're on to the next game. Like, and you guys are playing it for weeks or months, and we're like, yeah, we're done. And that's kind of like lame. And I don't want to. Everyone does that.
Right.
Like right now, I think when we're recording South of Midnight, the Xbox game, their embargo lifted, and it's like, cool. So now everyone's going to be talking about that, but you still can't play it. So like, let's enjoy it together. And so I think we kind of stumbled into that, but it was a way for me to kind of be honest with them too. And I appreciated the opportunity to do so. And I was honest with her, the person I was talking to, where I was just like, I felt like Sony was strong arming us in some way. Not strong arming. That's not the right word. I felt like, because that would be like they're trying to get us to do something. That was not the case. I felt like they were playing with me. Like when I left Kind of Funny, I felt like suddenly they didn't have codes for me. Suddenly it was a problem to get to talk to someone. Suddenly it was like this, that, and the other thing. And I was just like, I just felt like it felt personal, and that really bothered me. And so it put me off from dealing with this situation anymore. And a lot of other people too. Be clear, like no one owes you anything. What I was saying though is like, when people a fraction as big in quotes as you in terms of reach and the shows you do and stuff are getting all access to these games and you're not, you know, it's personal. Like I've been doing this for a long time. There's no scarcity in game codes. There's none of that's real. Right. So it's not like, oh, we're out of codes. It's like, no, you're not. Right. So the more I learned about that, the more I got upset about it. And so I severed myself off from it. But the one thing that I want, and this is where kind of the intermediary came in to play about like putting the two sides together again, was like, I want to interview people. And the reality is that people that listen to this, there are a lot of people at PlayStation that listen to the show that want to be on the show too. It's interesting to know the possibilities of who we can get on here and the stories we can tell on Sacred Symbols Plus in particular, if we just open ourselves up to talking to PR again. And so I actually have another meeting with them from when we're recording next week. The day after this goes live on free feeds, I'll be talking to Sony again. And I'm going to be directly pitching them on a few ideas I have. about people I want to talk to and situations I want to do. And so that's it. It's like access to personnel when possible is what I want to breach. So no, you're not going to, it would certainly be on the table for us to get access to games again and do all these kinds of things and go down that road. But I'm just like, no, I think we're good. And I appreciate it. I appreciate that option, that opportunity should it present itself, but it's not something we're going to pursue. I just want to be able to talk to people that work there on the record. And knowing how they feel, let's just say there are people at Sony that really feel very strongly about this show. And it's those people that helped kind of pave the road to a reunification, as it were, between the two sides. And I think that speaks very highly of this show, to be honest. And I appreciate that. Because these people work in the trenches and they take this show seriously. And I think that's really neat. So hopefully the fruits of that will come to bear in the months to come. And I think you will see that it will. But for all you obviously want to get Neil on, you want to get Corey on, you want to get all these different people on. But really, I want to like talk to obscure people that do important things, but that you don't think about. Like, I want to talk to the people that run the PSN. I want to talk to people that run certification. I want to talk to people that run the China Hero project. Interviews that no one would really ask for, I don't think. So they're not necessarily prepared to field, but some things that I wanted to put out there nonetheless. So those are the kinds of conversations we're having. I knew when I said that, I was like, oh yeah, it's going to require a greater explanation. And I think that this is a nice way to kind of thread the needle. Access is good in this regard. And so I'll take it. And you're going to see other developers and other people from publishers come on this year too. I already have a few people lined up. So I want to do more of those. So I hope that explains it. You guys have any thoughts you want to share on this? I think it's good. Yeah.
No, I think you were clear.
Yeah.
And
I think it's good. I think it's good to put my feelings away about it. I was hurt and annoyed by those situations about like begging for things and not understanding why I was being treated a certain way. But I think it's a two-way street, and I probably could have comported myself better sometimes too. So Dante, thank you for writing in. Sucking Duck for Quack wrote in. That's a great name.
That's a great one.
Yeah. Hey boys, Dustin, what the fuck is going on with PlayStation? Up to this point, there's been much speculation about what's going on with Bloodborne. I thought maybe FromSoft is too busy. Maybe Sony is working out another deal with From, since they've certainly more expansive now than they were 10 to 12 years ago. Maybe there's something written into the contract from back then that says only From is allowed to work on Bloodborne. The Duskbloods say to me that's wrong. It shows that From Software is very much down to do partnerships and exclusive titles for platforms. So it begs the question, where the fuck is Bloodborne 2? Where is the remaster and remake? I've never been more convinced that PlayStation is doing nothing than right now. P.S. Well done on this recent side quest, Colin. Keep it up. Thank you. Sucking Duck for Quack. This was something that I kind of pertained to the Nintendo stuff, but I thought it would be fun as a separate topic as well. The game Duskbloods, it looks a lot like Bloodborne to a lot of people. I agree more with Micah. We were talking about this. I'm like, I don't really think it looks that much like Bloodborne. I mean, I actually think that the name is actually more on the nose than anything. But it is interesting that there is something's up. I don't know, between From Software and Sony, where I maybe Sony's just not willing to pay the price.
Yeah.
But I kind of got the vibe from Shuhei when we talked about Bloodborne a little bit on our interview that, Demon Souls, I think he said in so many words, like the Demon Soul situation annoyed them, and maybe they just never let it go in some sense. I don't know. What do you think? Yeah.
So the Duskbloods, I don't like the name, the Duskbloods, but certainly it's definitely, in my opinion, at the very least, Bloodborne inspired. There's someone at the beginning that has a rune on their arm from Bloodborne. They're talking about blood. Blood is in the name. It is in a gothic setting. So yeah, clearly, and I mean, From Software does this where they borrow things from their other games and kind of remix them. And clearly it's not just the Bloodborne spiritual successor exactly. The big thing is this is a PvPvE game, so player versus player and player versus environment at the same time. So definitely different, but it does beg the question in that From Software is clearly interested in returning to Bloodborne in some form or another, and now it's coming out as an exclusive game on Switch. And I mean, this deal was probably inked a long time ago, before even Sony owned a stake in Katakawa. So who knows? It's such a tough question. Like, it's clear Sony knows. It's clear From Software knows as well. But I'm kind of the impression that From Software wants to do it. They want to be the ones to do it. Miyazaki has said that he loves Bloodborne, wants to do more with it at some point. But making games is a long and difficult process, and there's only so many games you can make at a time. And even then, From Software is still crazy with nearly yearly releases since Elden Ring. So I don't know. It's probably just copium that I'm hoping that's like, okay, well, they have Night Rain coming, and then they have this game coming, the Duskbloods, and then maybe that's the one. But I really don't know.
Yeah,
I wish I had a better answer.
The Bloodborne thing's interesting just because I think the Insomniac leak showed us that as of 2022 or 2023 or whatever, it sold 7.5 million copies, I think, which is very respectable, but it's not that much. Like, I don't know that there's like that pressing of a commercial imperative to make a sequel to Bloodborne. I just think it's the obvious thing to do nonetheless for your hardcore audience that loves that game. So I can see it both ways where I'm like, well, there's way more urgent ways we can spend our money than making another Bloodborne game. In fact, it might even be worth it to make something totally new. Like if you're going to have From Software, like a Demon Souls, a Bloodborne, a whatever, maybe that's an even better idea. And maybe you own it. Maybe you make a fucking movie out of it or something. I don't know what they're thinking, but it does strike me as peculiar, especially with their kind of minor. They have enough of an ownership of Katakawa to sit on the board, and it's like you can't convince anyone to make a deal with you. It seems like there's more to it than meets the eye. I've said this for years. I mean, it was why it was so nice to hear Shuhei talk about it, not only to me, but I think to MinMax as well, where it was like, we get it. We know, like, you know, like there's just some mysterious bad, I don't want to say bad blood. I don't want to read into it too much, but just where it's like, no, we understand. Like you had your opportunity with Demon Souls. It's totally a hinge point in PlayStation history in some sense. It didn't really matter, but imagine if Sony really dominated, though, like Dark Souls was a PlayStation exclusive and so on and so forth. That would have been a totally different thing. They squandered it. And maybe From it prefers to work with other partners as a result. But then again, they did Bloodborne after that. Maybe the money's not right. I don't know. Chris, do you have any thoughts? Do you want to share about the Duskbloods?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is it the Duskbloods or is it Duskbloods?
I think it's the Duskbloods.
Okay.
I think there's a "the" in there.
Gotcha.
Which is I'm not really that. I'm kind of not a fan of the name either. This is a FromSoft game that is exclusive to a console that I will not be buying. So I don't really, and it didn't move the needle for me either. I was just like, okay, another one of these. Like, I like From Software. I think they're really good. But I'm also just kind of, I don't know. I feel vaguely burnt out on them. But I do think I do feel like maybe, you know, Bloodborne 2, or I think Bloodborne Remake or Bloodborne Remaster to me is obvious. That to me is what's more confusing that it hasn't happened yet. Bloodborne 2, not so much, really. But I feel like FromSoft is in such a unique position because they have developer recognition in a way that I don't think I've seen, or not in a way that I've seen so obviously, I guess. And I think they want to build that in some way where they could be like, if we make something, people will care about it. And I feel like maybe they think if we get into a sequel kind of mindset where it's like Elden Ring 2, Bloodborne 2, maybe that puts more stake in the game name than us. And wouldn't we rather have the flexibility to just be like, hey, here's a new thing everyone's going to be talking about, and then the next thing's going to be completely new, and then the next thing's going to be completely. That's kind of an envious position to be in, and I could see why they would maybe go down that route instead of, you know, the sequel route that they were on during, you know, Dark Souls. But as far as as far as what PlayStation is doing with Bloodborne, like I don't know what. I'm baffled personally that they didn't have Bluepoint on Bloodborne, and instead had them doing this insane. What was it? The
God of War multiplayer game.
Yeah. I blocked it out of my memory because it was so psychotic of a decision. But yeah, that to me would have been like an obvious thing to do, among other things with them. But yeah, I think they're just kind of holding off up for the right time, maybe to do it. Maybe you'll never see it though, which is also possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fairly clear that Bloodborne needs there's just something up, even just no 60 frames, like nothing like. There must be something in the rules about the game being developed and who has to work on it and stuff. So,
yeah.
All right. Steve Carley wrote in and said, "Hey Kings, Colin, during your chat about Ubisoft's big moves last week, you failed to mention our beloved Massive Entertainment. It's very interesting that IP such as Splinter Cell and Assassin's Creed were mentioned, but do we think this means Massive is safe? Personally, I want nothing more than for Ubi to let Julian Garrity and his team cook with The Division 3, and all this doom and gloom over Ubisoft's financials has me concerned. Both Avatar and Outlaws were great games that deserve far better sales numbers, but do you think Massive should be concerned at all? Thanks, boys. I love you very much." Yeah, I do. I mean, if you're not in the family of studios that they called out specifically in this deal, then I would be concerned. And I do think Massive has kind of, it's not really their fault, but they've been the victim, because I think people like both of the games, but they've been the victim of subpar commercial realities surrounding the Avatar game, which I bought and just didn't really play very much, and then Star Wars Outlaws, which I didn't buy but was considered pretty good. Like Jaffe's a big champion of that game, and so I love The Division just like you. It is my hope that these things continue. As we keep saying, there are things they do specifically call out The Division in the verbiage when they announce the deal, saying like these things will also continue, and I think Just Dance was mentioned too. But yeah, if I'm not working on if I'm at Ubisoft and I'm not working on Assassin's Creed, I'm not working on Splinter Cell, I'm not working on Far Cry, and I'm not in one of those 6 or 7 studios, yeah, I'm concerned. And we already seen, probably since you wrote this, one of the UK Ubisoft studios shut down yesterday. So that was like a support team. So it's going to start happening. The only thing that I think changes the trajectory, as I said earlier, and we'll talk about this with Hogue more in the coming weeks when things settle down a little bit, is it seems like shareholders have gotten together to sue Ubisoft to stop this deal from happening, at least at the price that they got. Because I was thinking that too. It's like 1.2 billion or whatever. And I'm like, that's kind of for 25%. But I'm like, that's not bad. I mean, you're getting Assassin's Creed and Far Cry, which are heavily marketable, popular products. So I was talking about that with Jaffe on Moriarty Cross Jaffe, where I'm like, people underestimate how well Far Cry sells. It's huge. I think Far Cry 5 or Far Cry 6 sold like 20 something million copies or something. It's crazy. So they're getting a pretty good deal. But do I think Massive is safe? I honestly don't know. And I don't know what happens to, that doesn't mean something happens to them. I'm saying, are they safe? No. I think Ubisoft Montreal is safe. Ubisoft Quebec is safe.
Right.
No, I don't believe that Massive is safe because I think their last releases haven't done well. And The Division is maybe the last gasp, and they've been working on it for so long. It is my hope that they wouldn't just throw all that away. But I've seen stranger things. The Last of Us Online was well on its way, and they just threw that all away at Naughty Dog. So it's not like it never happened. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about Massive's future. I am hopeful because I think The Division is great, and I hope that they're able to see it through. But that they weren't brought along says to me that they're willing to let them sink with the ship, if necessary. I don't know that that's necessarily their intention. It's just the way I read it. Why would you're stripping this thing for parts, right?
Yeah,
I would assume that that's the case. So, all right. Jonathan Churlin wrote in, said, "Hey guys, so I've realized that sadly Olivia Newton-John's 'Let's get physical' can no longer be a motto of mine. In other words, I really have no reason anymore to buy physical copies of modern games. The kernel of this thought started back in December when I bought a physical copy of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. When I put it in the game, it had a massive download, and I saw that only a few megabytes were actually on the disc, which made me realize that literally none of the game was on the disc itself. I was so pissed because I buy physical games so I can have them preserved for if my console stops working at some point in the future, but this got me thinking that even with games that do have most of their content on the disc, that's almost always at least some kind of first day patch or something to download. So The only real way of preserving the full game is to actually have it downloaded to the console or backed up on an external drive. I know that Colin is long gone fully digital, but I know that Dustin is big into collecting physical copies of games. Can't remember if Chris still buys physical, but I was wondering if any of you still think that there's a reason to buy physical copies of modern games besides just having a box to put on a shelf, or if our future is going to be a collection of external hard drives labeled PS4 and PS5 games Volume 1, etc. This was I was going to include this in the Nintendo conversation as well, because I know that they're doing some stuff like this with these cards that they're selling, and this is becoming more common, but I thought it would be an interesting thing to spin off. I'm going to leave it to you, Dustin, to talk about this for a minute. I got a phone call from someone. I have to return it now before they leave their office. So I'll be back in a few minutes.
Okay. So where do we start here? Is there any point to owning physical games still, even though some of them are a physical download? I think that's one thing to point out that I see a lot online is people's like, well, there's nothing on the disc now, so what's the point? That is true sometimes, but actually very rarely. There's a website I really like called doesitplay.com. And for PS5, 93% of games, 93% of games you can play offline, and 70% of them do not require a download. So the thing that you hear about games being just an empty disc, all of them, it's not true at all. A lot of physical game collectors are very focused on the preservation aspect. I think that's important. It's important to me, but not as important as the other benefits of physical games. The big one for me, the two big ones probably, is that, number one, I just like having the box. I like having a physical item. Not everyone has space in their house to display these, or do they want to? And I totally get that. I have the space in the corner of my living room where I have all these shelves, and I enjoy that aspect. I like being able to look at my collection. It's a small one. It's a small thing, but it is a thing that is important to me. The second thing is just that not every game, but there's been tons of games that I have that my friend wants to check out. Brandon's interested in it. After I'm done, he says, hey, can I borrow that and check it out? Sure, no problem. This happens all the time, whether it's Brandon, Ben, some of my other friends. I like the ability to lend games to my friends. My friends like to lend games to me. And you just simply can't do that with a digital game. Again, like Colin, who's not here right now, it's not going to apply to him. So that's not a factor at all. The last thing, I guess, I don't know, this isn't really what the write-in talked about, but I do find it interesting to bring up more Switch stuff, is that a lot of people are, there's a big conversation about these Switch key cards that are basically just a game unlock on a Switch cartridge that then downloads the game, much like the disc, right?
Yeah.
So obviously it's not ideal, but I think it's a better solution than what Switch had in the current generation, where a game like, I think it was Wolfenstein, I don't know if it was Wolfenstein 1 or 2, maybe both of them, that you would get a code in the game, that it was a box that just had a piece of paper in it, and you would redeem it, and that's it. So you can't resell it, you can't lend it to a friend or whatever. There's literally no point in buying that, other than, I guess, that box factor. But to me, like, that cheapens it. Like, if I'm going to have a game in my collection, I don't want it to be an empty box with a code in it that's redeemed. So I think it's a better option that they have these cards that then, if you decide you don't like the game and you want to sell it, you want to let a friend borrow it, you have the option to do that instead of a stupid card in the box. So a better solution than before. But
yeah, I'm sorry, you already talked about this, but I'm back, by the way.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry to be redundant, but I am curious. So the card thing that doesn't have the game on it, those can be shared and sold. So It's not like that actually is kind of revolutionary in some way. I mean, not you still have to download the game, but you do own it,
right?
Like you're basically triggering the download or whatever.
You're triggering the download, and if you don't have that card, then you don't have access to the game anymore. Right.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting option. And again, I'm sorry, I'm coming in hot here, but
it's all good.
I find it interesting where I think I'm seeing a level of stubbornness creep in with the games, the physical games people now, though, where it's like, the Indiana Jones thing is a good point where I'm like, if you own that disc, you actually are at a detriment to owning it digitally, because you still have to access Xbox Live to download the actual game. You won't be able to play it off the disc. And if you lose that disc, you won't have access to the digital game at all, as opposed to just having access to the digital game that will always exist. If Xbox Live goes away, you lose either way, because the game's not gonna work.
If you put the disc in, let's say if Xbox doesn't exist, but if you put the disc in and it's downloaded to your console, it's the exact same as having the download.
Right, but I'm saying you have to keep it. It would be like having PT then in that case, like where it's like now you can't delete it.
Right, but if Xbox was down and you bought it digitally, then you wouldn't, in theory, be able to re-download it either.
That's exactly what I'm saying. So it's the same difference, is what I'm saying. There's actually no advantage, and I would argue the advantage.
There's still an advantage.
Well, I would argue that there's a disadvantage, because you have the disc could get broken or like scratched or not read. I'm not saying that would happen. I'm just saying it enters there's like a fail state that would not exist now with the digital package, as opposed to it truly being on disc. This is why I think this is getting to an interesting tension point, I think, between, I'm using that word a lot today, between physical and digital, where they're merging, and you really have to ask yourself what the fuck you're buying, which is what I heard on the tail end of your thing. Yeah. And I remember this going back to Vita. Vita was the first thing I remember having that, where it's like, oh, there's a literal fucking code in this case.
Right.
Yeah, I hate that.
I think Borderlands 2 was like that.
Yeah. So I agree. It certainly is possible, depending on your age. Maybe it's a younger kid, the disc could get scratched up. It's not very common, especially with newer games. I find that they just don't seem to get scratched up really like older games did. I don't know if there's some kind of coating on it or whatever, but this is what I was saying when you were on the call, is that you do have the advantage of that. If you buy Indiana Jones and you play it and you either don't like it or play it and you're done with it, you can sell it, or you can let a friend borrow it. You just can't do that with a digital game.
Yeah, I like this solution.
Yeah. I obviously, the write-in from Jonathan is very focused on game preservation, and that's going to vary person to person how much that matters to them. That's not my primary focus in physical games.
Right. Yeah, I don't even know how I feel about it, really. Because I fell off really early with physical stuff. Like I always liked having like the boxes and stuff, and like being able to look at my collection. I have many from PS1 and PS2 and all the way up to Xbox 360. I think I have like maybe like a handful, probably like maybe like 5 total PS4 and Xbox One altogether discs. But the first the first plane to the first tower for me was the PS3, I think. And getting a game. That's a wild analogy. But I remember like watching a friend of mine get a new game and be like, oh man, I'm excited to play my new game. And then we went over to his house. He had a PS3, I didn't have one. And he put it in his console, and then it triggered the install. And I immediately was like, no. I don't like this experience at all. And it was a weird point in time too, because like the direct competitor did not have that problem. Like it was the same as it used to be. You know, it was just like you'd put a game in and it ran on the 360. And then the next generation was just like, it was all those installs. And I was like, oh man, I don't know, man. Like going to a midnight release or whatever and being excited to come home and then like, oh man, I'm excited to play the game. And then it takes like 4 hours to download the game. And you're like, I got to go to bed. Like that was like a really like sobering experience for me, where it's just like, I don't know if I really get much value out of this now. I wish I had pre-downloaded this, you know? And so it's, I guess it depends on what it is you value. Like if you value being able to like, you have a close knit group of in-person friends who, you know, you want to be able to lend things out to, then yeah, I mean, obviously the advantage there is physical, because you literally can't do that at all on digital. But if I think convenience for me is more important. Like I remember hating going up and changing the game. I was so spoiled by like the downloadable games that I had, like Splosion Man and Limbo and stuff. And I would switch between them at a whim. And then I wanted to play a real game, and then I had to go up and like, you know, open the disk drive. And sometimes on the 360, the disk drive would be like fucky and it wouldn't work all that well. So I remember I had to bend a paper clip into like a straight line and like poke around inside to get the the disk drive to open. And so that was kind of something too. I think it really depends on what you value. But I do think, yeah, that that 300 megabyte package on the disc is pretty fucking lame.
Keep buying your physical games, nerds.
We shall. Dude, they almost got me.
I'll have one to sell you soon. What?
They almost got me
Yeah.
on Switch 2. If physical games are going to be $10 extra, I think that it would have been it for Nintendo physical games for me.
Yeah, that would have that. When I saw that, I'm like, that doesn't seem credible. That's why I was just like not that worried. I was like, that would be crazy. $90 would be crazy, man.
Yeah, Nintendo Switch is the only platform that I got most of the games that I own on it physically. That's
interesting. That's the only console that when I've traveled with it, I'm like, not that I'm carrying every game, but I still was like, this console would really be convenient for me to be digital, but I choose not to.
Well, the thing for me that I liked about it is that it worked like it used to. Like you'd plug a game in, and because it's on the cartridge, it would be like, oh, it's going to start up now. Immediately, or at least that's what my memory of the Switch is. Maybe I'm misremembering it, but there wasn't, unless there was like some patch, which is like that's unavoidable. Like it was off the rip. You could play it, and I was like, oh, this is great. Ooh, it's good. And now it doesn't seem like that. It doesn't seem like that's going to be the case with going forward. So like, whatever. It's all the same now.
All right, Jonathan, thank you for writing in. CT Fire wrote in and said, hey, CDC, in an interview with Bloomberg, Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick seems to think that the studio system in the games industry makes it work. He doesn't believe that independent creators joining together to make productions like in film and TV is good for gaming. Colin, this seems to be the almost exact opposite of what you believe. Other than Strauss being the CEO of one of the largest gaming companies, and this would put him at a disadvantage at retaining talent and financial negotiations, do you see disadvantages to independent creatures? I don't know why you say creatures and not create. I think you mean creators. Join to make one-off. Now that I'm reading it, I'm like, creatures. Join to make one-off productions in gaming. Thanks for reading my questions and have a great day. CT Fire, thank you for writing in. When you make games like the level of Strauss Zelnick makes them, then it of course makes no sense, but that's not what I'm really talking about either. If you want to make a game, if you want to spend $1 billion on, I don't even know if you could spend $1 billion on a movie without, I don't know, like owning some of the resources that you're utilizing and having an incredibly high burn rate for something that really shouldn't take that long. Games are complicated. They take a long time. You're going to see in the Grand Theft Auto 6's credits, although maybe not, because Rockstar has interesting policies about not putting people in their credits, but if they don't finish the game. But obviously Strauss Zelnick is very smart. He obviously knows exactly what he's talking about and what he's doing. But I think the best way to make smaller games and to get new ideas is to embrace the risk aversion of eschewing publishers and the burn rate and the real estate and all the things that are required there, and starting small and from scratch and then moving around. There's this weird expectation that game studio, like, I don't mind it because I love these game studios and I want them to exist, but it's a unique entertainment medium where like you're supposed to just exist in between projects for many years at a time. And that's just not really realistic for the cost of what games are priced at these days and how much people are spending to make them and all the rest. So I think it's more complicated than that. But I'm more concerned that you called them independent creatures.
Yeah.
Twice. It makes me feel like you don't know how to spell creators. And well, I'll just leave it there. CT Fire, thank you for writing in. Finally, Miguel Almeida wrote in and said, hi, CDC. I wanted to write in about something that sometimes bothers me when listening to other gaming podcasts and creators. There seems to be this growing tendency in the gaming space to state that being platform agnostic is the way to go, and being a fan of a specific platform like PlayStation or Nintendo is something of a relic, or a very, very old-fashioned way to think about and play games. Even creators that used to be more associated or passionate about a specific platform are tempering such enthusiasm in favor of a very peace and love, play everywhere kind of approach. I believe that this is somewhat detached from the reality outside of the very hardcore people in the gaming journalist bubble. Most people cannot afford and don't want to pay for several gaming pieces of hardware. Also, people don't have the time to play everything on a single platform, let alone on all platforms. The reality is that regular people will just buy the machine they grew up with or the one that has the games they like. How can journalists not see that they play and live games in a very specific way that is not applicable to most people? Anyways, Colin, the way you approach your gaming on PlayStation and the passion with which you speak on the platform is getting more and more rare, and I really appreciate it. Keep up the good work. Thank you. I agree with this in some sense, although I think I'm on both sides. I've always been a very peace and love, play everywhere kind of approach in terms of like play where you want. I don't give a fuck. This is the whole thing where people like judge the way I play or have chosen to play for many years, and it's like, oh, you should play. And I'm like, I don't care. Why do you care what I do? I don't care if you can own every piece of gaming hardware that's ever existed for all I care. I don't care. Buy every game that comes out. Do what you want. Play the way you want to play. But the level of judgment that has long been foisted on me for a long time, long before I knew you guys, about being so. Back in the day, it was Nintendo centric, and now PlayStation centric. Where it's like, no, I'm just going to do what I want, and I do agree that it somewhat fits fairly well with the normal person out there who is a PlayStation player or an Xbox player or a Nintendo player, not out of spite or content loyalty, but out of like, that's just where they are. That's what they own. That's what they have. That's what they've played. That's what they've experienced. And that's the kind of consumer they are. There is like this hoity-toity, holier than thou kind of, yeah, I play on everything and I own everything. It's like, who gives a shit? I own everything too. Yeah. Doesn't really mean anything. My entertainment system, my entertainment center has everything in it. But I agree. It does detach from the way a regular person plays. And I think that's one of the reasons why our network of podcasts is actually quite successful. And there's been a long effort to kind of erode this as if it didn't matter, as if there is no difference between these player bases and there is no difference about the predilections of those bases and what they look for and how they play games and the things that they like. And I'm with you, Miguel. I'm glad that it shows through. Anything you guys want to say?
Yeah, well, I think that there's an element that if this podcast, if Chris and I were just like you, Colin, and only played on PlayStation, I think that would be a huge detriment if it was too exclusive. And we've talked about this before, that at least I hope that it's one of the strengths of this podcast is that we can have someone who is super knowledgeable, super in the space, and can speak to that with authority. But at the same time, we can also have perspectives of people that have experience like Chris and I that are on other platforms to varying degrees, depending on what they are, and can provide insight on how that relates to PlayStation as well. So there's a little bit of a mix in there. But I agree that I think that the platform-specific approach is good. I think for new creators, it is a harder way to get into the space.
Well, yeah, you're kind of cutting yourself off from a lot of things that could get you attention.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that.
And there are a lot of old school people that dominate those spaces, both in PlayStation and an Xbox. It's going to be hard to breach.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think the special sauce here is that we have an avenue towards a specialization, but we are also well-rounded. I think that's like kind of like the thing that really makes it the engine run. It's the reason why we can talk with authority, or Colin can speak with authority on PlayStation, and then we can also mention Schedule 1, which would be crazy not to point out because it's a huge game right now. But I do find it interesting because like I think this was actually more true a couple of years ago than it is now, in the sense that I think a couple of years ago there was a little bit more of a difficult. There was a little bit more of an agnosticism in the way these things felt to use. And what I mean by that is Xbox and PlayStation for a while, outside of like the few first party things, felt kind of like the same machine. We're doing the same kind of thing, and so it. In some sense, it kind of didn't really matter which one you covered. Switch was really the one thing that was like its own thing, and it's first party led, and the attach rate for all these first party games is crazy. But now it's like with Xbox being out of the picture, and or essentially like people are still pretending like I mean, come on. But Xbox transitioning into this weird kind of third party space. Now the only real players in the game are Nintendo and PlayStation, and they are really separated environments, like you don't have two things that are like kind of the same with this other thing kind of on the outside. Now it's just two completely different verticals with like some overlap, if any. But I don't know. I think it's just an interesting place that we're transitioning into. And I'm really curious as to what the space is going to look like for not just for content creation and coverage, but like how these machines are going to do like in the near future when Microsoft does make that full pivot, or even just like that pivot into the handheld space that they're talking about doing. Like it's going to be an interesting few years from that perspective. But I don't know.
Yeah, well said. And we'll leave it there. It's an ongoing conversation. I've always been very protective of the console division thing. I think it makes perfect sense because people are like, oh, you don't watch movies like that. And I'm like, well, movies aren't video games, are they?
Right.
They're like, you're not a Paramount movie fan, are you? Or, it's like, games have always been like this. So go away. All right. Let's leave. And speaking of going away, it's time for us to go away.
Yeah.
But this was a fun episode. And thank you guys for letting me step away for a few minutes. It was actually the landscaper that I work with just to do like bigger design things or whatever. He's been doing my backyard for like many years, and we've been trying to get it right. And it's kind of like, I don't want to say an obsession, but he's like really dedicated to like helping me get this like exactly the way I want it to be. So when he calls me and like makes himself available because he's doing me a favor, I don't like to leave him waiting. All right, let's go around the horn and say goodbye and see what everyone's doing with the rest of their day and their week. Chris, goodbye to you. Be well. Any plans?
Gonna go to the dry cleaner, get my blazer suit jacket thing cleaned. It's got a little bit of a smudge on it that I'm like, I don't like that. So I'm gonna do that. Little
cum materia.
Jesus Christ. What else? I was supposed to do something. Oh, I gotta walk to the bank too. Like, I don't know. I got like a little bit of a busy day ahead of me, but probably I want to play more Adamfall tonight. I think tonight's gonna be like an Adamfall kind of night.
Cool. Enjoy.
Yeah.
Be well. And enjoy the wedding. We'll have hopefully get some stories out of it. Dustin, goodbye to you. Be well.
Goodbye. Got a text. I'm helping Brandon install his new GPU this evening. And other than that, I have no plans this weekend. So I'm gonna chill out.
Good.
Feeling a little sleepy now. Since I didn't get as much sleep. So maybe go to bed early tonight. Probably not though. Here's the thing. All day, tired.
Mm-hmm. Night.
Then about 10 p.m.
Yeah, that's the prime time. Yeah, second wind. I'm the same way. I've been half the days I'll take a nap from like 9 to 12 and then stay awake, and then half the time I'm just able to raw dog it. But what's funny is that the day that I stayed up till 6 a.m. I just didn't go to bed. Like I didn't even take my little nap. So I'm just all fucked up. Yeah.
Dang.
What am I going to do? I don't know. I want to go for a walk. I have to record some ads and just be dicking around like I usually do. That's basically it. All right, guys and gals out there, thank you so much for your love, kindness, and support of all things Sacred Symbols and Last Stand Media. Patreon.com/Last Stand Media for early ad-free access. We could not do it without your support over there, so please consider supporting us if you don't. LastStandMedia.store for merch. We'll see you next time. Until then, goodbye.
See ya.
Take care, guys.
Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Colin's Last Stand LLC, and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show is conceived by, is written by, and is directed by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-hosts are Chris Raygun Maldonado and Dustin Furman. The show is produced by executive producer Dustin Furman. All of Last Stand's theme music is by my best friend, Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand's shows, including Sacred Symbols, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest tier, and we're grateful for your thoughtful and kind contributions to our independent endeavor. Thank you.